Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time it is for you in the world. Hope you're having a good one. We got another great day ahead of us. More news with Russell Brand today. Got a couple other topics I want to talk about. We're gonna go over the shooting that happened where the 80-year-old man shot who he thought to be a trespasser trying to break into his home. That's been kind of blowing up all over the news and social media recently. Got plenty of thoughts on that. I've already been into a Twitter argument over this one. There's a recent video by Evan Preach responding to an Ethan Klein video that has an interesting topic I want to talk about. And then if we still have some time after that, I got a couple of little things on the back burner we'll look at. But suffice to say, should be a good day. I keep doing this. All right, see this thing right here. This, yeah, I fucking hate that I do that. I'm really trying to stop. I feel like if I point it out every time I do it, it'll become an awkward enough experience that I'll it'll ingrain it in me to just not do that. So I'm gonna keep pointing it out to myself if no one else, so that I can stop doing that, because it's just a bad habit. It sounds freaking annoying and disgusting. Anyway, moving past that. Oh, I almost did it again. I kind of half did it just there. Moving past that. We got a good news segment coming up. Looks like we got a little bit before the newscast actually starts, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the what is it called? Brain farting. The break and entering case. Where the guy the teenager got shot in the head by the 80-year-old man. He survived though. Spoiler on that one. He survived. Thank God. It could have been a much worse tragedy. Very easily. Surviving a bullet to the head, I'm pretty sure, is a pretty rare case. So God was with him on that one. Yeah, let's jump into checking this out. Let's see here. Trying out new camera controls now, by the way, as well. See if I can't get things to run a little bit more smoothly. So if I just do this, just slide myself over, then we can pop up my window. Voila. Okay. So here we go. We have it. So it says an excerpt from the prosecutor's probable cause statement posted online revealed that Lester told police he picked up his gun after hearing the doorbell ring while laying down. So, he probably had the lights off, was laying down in bed, heard his doorbell go off. It's late at night, not expecting anybody. He grabs a gun for his personal defense in case things get crazy. Fair enough so far. Okay. He opened an interior door. She's got probably one of those glass interior or glass exterior doors, solid interior doors, I'm guessing.
Yeah, enjoy your life. Enjoy it. This is your
news
life
progress and study. All right, but we're gonna put it on pause.
Stay free with Russell Brand. We're streaming live.
I'll put it on pause for a moment as I finish going over this. All right. It'll give it time to what would you call it? Buffer. That way I can like skip through some of the stuff too. That'd be nice. Anyway, so he opened an interior doorway, saw a quote unquote black male approximately 6 feet tall pulling on the exterior door of his house. Believing that it was a break-in attempt, he fired twice after opening the door. So he opens the door. There's a glass door that's still closed. Again, I'm assuming the glass part, one of those clear things. That's usually what the case is if there's an exterior and interior. It's either like glass or screen. Point blank, there's an exterior door that he can see through. Sees a quote unquote black male approximately 6 feet tall pulling on the door handle and immediately shoots. So this is what happened. Got some once in the head, I think once somewhere in the body. Kid flees, goes to a nearby home and asks for help. I'm assuming he got the help, got the medical attention. Like those people called 911 or something because he survived the experience. And that's pretty much the gist of what we get from the other statements I was reading. I found this on a Tim Pool quote because he was saying, "I don't trust the media," saying it was conveyed very untruthfully. It was spun in a manipulative manner, and I would somewhat agree. They immediately did spin it in a way to say, "Hey, dude got shot because he was black," basically. Well, there might be some truth to that. There's plenty of other factors going on here, and we definitely don't know that that was a factor. There's no hard evidence that that was a factor. I know if somebody's trying to break into my home, I'm willing to defend my home with a gun. I don't know what they're going to do, what extent they'll take things, how much they might endanger my family. Yeah, I'm gonna defend my home. But that being said, the man, without saying a word, immediately puts 2 rounds into the guy, and he's still solidly on the other side of a door. I think I personally would have just not opened the first door, but asked who it was on the other side of my door for them to state their business. If I used my peephole, I think there was definitely better methods going into that. Opening door and then immediately firing seems like it's an odd combination of being prepared and unprepared. So you thought to bring a gun to the door with you, but you didn't think to check in any way before opening the main door, the inner door. And then you weren't mentally prepared for what could possibly be on the other side of it when you did open it, and immediately resorted to freaking lethal force. It's an odd combination of things, to say the least. But like I said, got into a Twitter beef over this. So here's my responses. So I said, "You heard the doorbell ring, and then you thought someone was breaking in?" And I should probably mark out these names, but you know what? I don't feel like I'm a big enough streamer that really got to worry about bringing a lot of weight to somebody, so it shouldn't matter. Anyway, so this other guy replies, "No, he heard the doorbell, went to check, and saw him trying to open the door and shot. Why are you so dishonest about what happened?" My response to this was, people can read, bro. I didn't think I had to repeat the whole thing. I was just highlighting the part that didn't add up. Who rings a doorbell before trying to break in? Why are you acting like there isn't a contradiction here? So I am aware, this is going to come up very quickly soon. I am aware that sometimes people do this when they're attempting to rob an unoccupied home. But if you're attempting to rob an unoccupied home, your goal isn't to force your way through somebody else. goal is to actually avoid having that happen. Which means a simple clarification, a declaration of your presence in the home and that you are armed was probably going to dissuade them. You probably didn't need to use lethal force. This is kind of the thing that I was getting at here. It wasn't just about, no one would ever ring a doorbell and then try to unlawfully enter a home. No one's going to ring a doorbell and then, like, come in like a fucking SWAT team and fucking try to, like, break down your door and steal all your shit and attack you and everything. Like, that's not going to happen. Either they're going to come in quickly and aggressively, they're going to come in silently, or they're going to see if anyone's home, and if anyone is home, they're going to not come in. Like, it's going to be one of these three things if they're trying to do something, trying to gain some kind of unlawful entry. So two of those things pretty much preclude ringing the doorbell. And the one that doesn't preclude ringing the doorbell is the one that probably doesn't require you to take lethal action against the perpetrator of the crime. That was my case here. You can't say all of that in a single tweet, so I just put it the way that I did. But we'll get more into that. So, okay, yeah, actually, it's the very next one that does this. Okay, so this person says it's a form of scouting burglars do that okay, this is a little bit jumbled. It's a form of scouting burglars do that to make sure there isn't anyone in the home. Obviously, he was wrong and entered the house when he thought no one was home. Okay. At no point did he enter the home. According to the information, this is my actual response here. According to the information we are given here, the man pulled on the door. It doesn't say he actually got the exterior door open. So he shot a man who was still safely on the other side of what I can only assume is a locked door without giving a single warning. Even if the door wasn't locked. This man is not presenting lethal force. He's gone for the handle, which was stupid on his part. I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying that the kid made the most rational decisions. Though I think I have some idea of why he made the decisions he made. But still, it was dumb. But for it to be a lethal mistake, at least a very likely, very potentially lethal mistake on his part, I think is a bit much. So then this other guy responds to this and says, well, that's why castle doctrine is great. I don't have to give you 10 chances to kill me when you're breaking in. And my response to this, and this is the last part of this one I'm going to go into, this just sounds like you want to kill somebody. We aren't talking about 10 chances. We're talking about one chance for a man who might not even have any malicious intent, for all you know. I just think this could be handled way, way better. I agree with being careful and being armed and defending your property. 100% agree with all of that. But I think you need to be careful about, being trigger happy. I think, a kid almost died, and that did not need to be the case. Absolutely did not. He's going to have serious medical bills to deal with. Unless he, wins a lawsuit, which I doubt he'll win. This man does have the right to defend his home. So, he's going to have some serious medical bills to deal with. And that's the worst case, assuming that he doesn't have some kind of permanent brain damage or something, or spinal injury, or whatever else, other things can happen from having 2 bullets put into your body, one through your head. I mean, this kid's gonna be facing serious repercussions from this. And if the man had simply opened his mouth, conducted himself in a more thoughtful manner for the human life before him, it didn't have to go down that way. And that's pretty much my take on this thing. There's a big back and forth on, like, is this racist or is it not racist? Gun control is going to get brought into it. There's all these things that can be made contention points about this. But I think the only real conversation that needs to be had here is that you need to be careful Oh shoot. Sorry. I didn't have my chat pulled out like I normally do. My bad. Just noticed we got a first time chatter. What's up, man? Yeah, I'm reacting to this article where an 80-year-old man shot a um quote unquote black male approximately 6 feet tall. Apparently he was like a teenager, like 17 or something. Um for a what he assumed was a break-in and entering attempt. Um it was over it's a big thing. It's been all over the news. According to the story that we've heard so far, the kid thought he was at one of his family members' house. He was there to pick up some like cousins or siblings or something like that. Some family member of some kind, some younger family members. He knocked on the house. It was late at night, and the guy was lying down. So this excerpt here says, apparently the guy says he was just laying down. It was like 10 p.m. Then he heard a doorbell ring, and he comes to check it out. Takes a gun with him. Doesn't ask who's there or anything. Just opens the door. Sees, quote unquote, a black male approximately 6 feet tall pulling on the exterior door. So I'm guessing it's like a glass door or one of those screen doors or whatever. And then immediately just puts 2 rounds into him without saying a word. And like, that's my point was, you really need to be a little more careful about how you conduct yourself when you have the option of lethal force available to you. I think that like there's so many other spin-offs they're going to try to make out of this. Again, the racism thing, the gun control thing, whatever else they want to make out of it. I think it's really just a thing to be careful about how you treat dangerous situations and the sanctity of a human life. Yeah, he definitely didn't. It was a weird combination of being prepared and not prepared. Like, he was prepared enough to bring a gun with him to the door, but then he doesn't ask who's at the door. He doesn't look through the peephole before opening the interior door. And then when he does see somebody there, like, he doesn't say a word. He immediately just resorts to, oh crap, take shots. So it's a very unfortunate and odd lapse of judgment on the part of the homeowner and on the part of the teenager. Because the teenager shouldn't have just been pulling on the door like that either. Fucking lights are off. Be a little more cautious, be a little more self-aware, I think. But yeah, the mistake that the teenager made should not have been a nearly fatal one. And it was made that by the mistake of the homeowner. Well, we don't know that either. That we don't know that that the teenager was actually attempting to break in and entering. Like I said, according to his side of the story, he was there to pick up some family members, and he thought he was at a different house. He mistaken the address or something. Now, there's no way of knowing whether that's the truth or not until we get more details. Police look into this more and whatnot. But yeah, even if he is a fucking criminal, if he came there, unarmed and made no acts of aggression, still probably shouldn't deserve to lose his life over it. It would still be a pretty unfortunate play out of events that it went down that way. But it is what it is. These things happen. And now that I've covered this, we have burnt up enough time for the news segment that we're going to do with Russell Brand. As I do every single day, every single weekday, around this time, we tune into Stay Free with Russell Brand. Oh wait, we gotta do. He's on the YouTube side right now. Here we go. All right, so it's been playing for a minute. I like to let it buffer ahead, so we gotta go back a little bit. Let's see where we're at. It's been playing that long, apparently. There we go.
If you're living, you lose.
Jump back a tiny bit.
Enjoy your life. Enjoy it. This is your life you're living, you lunatics. This is Stay Free with Russell Brand. We're streaming live.
This guy does a great
Hello,
job
Achiever.
of covering current events in a actually unbiased way, and has a really grounded perspective, I think. So I enjoy using him as a
Join us not for more of the same, but for more of the
somebody
different.
to
Until
bounce
then,
off
stay free.
bounce my ideas
enjoy
off
your
of in a
life.
certain sense.
Enjoy it. This is your life you're
And play off of
living.
what he
you
presents.
lunatics. This is Stay Free with Russell Brand. We're
Why are we running this
streaming
back
live.
again? See, this is why I buffer, so I can skip shit.
More of the same, but for more of the different. Until then, stay free. Hello there, Awakening Wonders. If
There we
you
go.
want to free yourself from this prison planet that sees you merely as fodder, one of the tools you're going to need is an independent media. That's what me
Facts.
is. Independent media.
That's what me is.
And him over there. We're doing our best to bring you stories that are at least attempting to be transparent. We care about what you think. That's why we need you to let us know in the comments and chat
Can't
what
believe this
stories you want
guy's
to see
doing
covered and
a
how
Christmas
you think we're
hat
covering
in,
today's stories.
What, April?
Like, we're going to be talking about...
We're also not funded by the government, are we, Russ?
They give us
Unlike
nothing.
CPC.
Every week I go back to the government,
Yep.
any of them. Hong Kong, one.
Right. Yeah.
Burma. I've spoken to people in Senegal and I've said, would you be interested in investing in some independent media? They go, what is your main aim? We say, well, we just want to bring the government down, really. And they go, well, we're not going to contribute to that. Actually, we are the government of Senegal in this case. That was the most recent one. We've got some great guests and stories coming up just for you. If we knew you weren't interested, we'd stop doing it. Dave Rubin's coming on, the inventor of locals and the inventor of a certain type of gay, I'd say he is.
Right.
What?
Well, we'll ask him about that when we talk to
I'm
him.
intrigued.
I don't think you should lead with that.
Sir, of all the types of gay that there are,
Right.
we claim you invented one of the types. Let's hear
I think
more
it's
about
the type
it.
you like most.
It's the type that I'd go for if
Yeah.
I was to explore that aspect of my sexuality. I was probably conditioned in early life not to contemplate that avenue. But hey, is it ever too late?
No.
Never.
I mean, I guess
We're
not,
going to
bro.
be looking at
Aren't
those
you
French
married?
protests. What we love about it is the way they targeted Black Rock. They started protesting outside an investment firm. So even though they're protesting, of course, about their age of pension being raised in France, robbing them of a couple of years of lazing about, sipping wine and being all French, they actually took it to the steps and doors of Black Rock, understanding at least tangentially that the problem is democracy itself doesn't work, even in one of the great principalities of democracy, France, where like liberté is right up there among their principles.
Not anymore.
Not now. Now you've got to start a fire and put on a yellow vest if you want anything like justice. We're going to be clicking over to being exclusively on Rumble. There's a link in the description. Have a look at it, right? And then we're going to give you the inside intel on the WHO's plans for a worldwide
Oh
pandemic
my
treaty. They're trying to
God.
usher it through. They're going to nick 5% of all your
WHO.
tax dollars. They want all sorts of...
Well, this organization has done nothing but awful, awful things for us. Okay, the fact that the World Health Organization is not an elected body and has as much control as they do over just the. Do I support homosexuality? Hold on, that's quite the question. I'm a little flabbergasted right now. Sorry. I think people have the right to do whatever the fuck they want in the privacy of their own home? Absolutely. Yeah, I do 100%. Do I have any agreement to like the LGBTQ agenda that's getting pushed popularly in the mainstream media right now, and this fucking whole thing with cross-dressers doing story time with children and shit? No. There's a lot of things that come tied to that right now that I definitely do not back, but the basic idea of two consenting adults being able to do whatever the fuck they want to do with each other, I mean, yeah, I support freedom for sure. Absolutely. that was a tangent. Hold on. Where was I? I was talking about, oh yeah, the World Health Organization. Yeah, the amount of power they have is freaking crazy. You say homosexuality is ruining society. Alright, bro. I'm gonna try to take the nuanced approach to this. To say that the feminization of men in general, not just being applied broadly, is having a devastating impact on society, I would agree with. To say that homosexuality very specifically is ruining society, I think is just homophobic. So yeah, I think that's, yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. That's my take on that. I feel like I have to explain the feminization aspect though too. It's like, it's okay if you're not the most masculine fucking dude in the world. Like, I'm not trying to say that you have to be, everybody has to be freaking Chad, but I am saying that the degradation of masculine values, like feminine masculine values, are both important. The degradation of masculine values is a serious issue. Okay, I think that says that concisely enough. I'll leave it at that. World Health Organization. Ridiculous amount of power they have. Don't like what they're doing. This whole pushing for like the COVID passport stuff, absolutely crazy. Again, they're not an elected body, and yet they're mandating things to governments around the world. It's absolutely crazy. I never thought I would see the day something like that would happen, and yet here we are. And you know, power to you. Have your own beliefs, bro. As long as you're not advocating for violence against people, then I don't care. Really. You can disagree with and be upset with people, and other people can disagree with you and be upset with you. I don't see why that has to be the biggest problem in the freaking world. You start advocating for violence over it though, and then yeah, I think there's a problem there. That's pretty much where I draw that line, I guess. Let's continue.
I mean, it's a proper little scam. If I didn't know better, I'd say that the WHO were not to be trusted. And along with them, the WF, the IMF, any of those, like if I had to trust any of them, it'd be the boxing ones.
It's acronyms for you, isn't it?
Don't trust any acronyms.
Right.
Look at us, stay free. We don't call ourselves SFM.
And the day we do,
then you'll know we've accepted that Senegalese sweet dollar and that Icelandic buck. Send us your comments because we're interested in what you've got to say. Now, we're going to spend a bit of time delving right into Elon Musk's interview with Tucker.
Also, I looked it up. He is married. He was married to Katy Perry at one point, but that ended. He's married to Laura Gallagher. So I'm gonna assume probably exploring your sexuality in that way is not an option unless you have an open relationship, I guess. But I mean, normally a marriage and an open relationship don't go hand in hand. I don't know. Odd caveat, but I had to look it up. I was curious.
How he's trolling state-funded media. Also looking into privately funded media, because we personally don't think that that's any better. Like, do you think CNN are worse or better than the BBC? Let us know, actually, in the comments below who you think the worst ones are. MSNBC, Fox. I know a lot of you like Fox because of Tucker and stuff. You like Tucker, don't they? And what about when I was on Greg Gutfield?
right?
That was good.
That went very well.
I did not.
I love that clip of him too. I posted that clip today. You know what? Let's just check that out one more time. Also, yeah, I do 100% agree with the premise of not being violent against somebody until they bring violence to you. So, if that's part of your belief system, dude, then you're doing something something right on the basic level at the very least. Dude, I posted it. Where did I put this at? Let's go to my profile. Oh, here it is.
You think
you can improve America?
This is a great clip.
Have to listen.
If you haven't seen
Do
this.
you think you can improve America by determinedly and avowedly condemning Fox News without acknowledging that you're participating in the same game? Did you not just listen to someone who plainly, legitimately believes in this country and believes it's possible to change, but is bound by corruption, is bound by the lobbying system? Surely it's clear to you, Bill, as one of the great pundits and experts and comic voices, that systemic change is required. Money has to be taken out of politics. We need new political systems that genuinely represent ordinary Americans so that we can overcome cultural differences. And bickering about which propagandist network is the worst is not going to save a single American life, not improve the life of a single American child, not going to improve America's standing in the world, and the world needs a strong America. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that. So you have an obligation, a duty. You have.
Great speech. Great speech. That man killed it on that one. Absolutely killed it. Mad props.
Nice time on there. In fact, Kat Timpf, I think is her name. She was on there that day that I was on there. She's coming on here later this week.
You got on very well with all of them. You're very at home.
I like the wrestler guy that looked like Thanos.
Yes.
He was good.
Very nice man.
And I like the attractive. There's an attractive woman there, an attractive woman there, and Greg Gutfield there. Not that he's not an attractive man, but
nice man.
Love him. Nice green jumper. What do you want from life? So we're going to look at like how Elon's digging out all these mainstream media outlets saying, you know, to what degree they're funded. And we're going to be looking at how much Pfizer, for example, and Big Pharma more broadly spend on advertising, and a surprising bit of information about how much money the British government spends on propaganda themselves. They spend our tax pounds, in our case, on propagandizing us to like them more. Why don't you just govern things better, for God's sake? And you can tell they're not taking stuff seriously now, because a lot of politicians' public appearances, I think, have started to seem uncanny, unusual, and weird. Like, look at this, right? We're going to show you Rishi Sunak in a minute, but first, like, we're going to show you Chuck Schumer acting a bit like he's on, I think, Sesame Street, I'd say. Have a look at this.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Who's happy to be here? Raise your hands. Okay.
This is, I know it's being sort of like pseudo-ironic and playful, but this pseudo-irony is what's, I think, contributing to the decay of trust and a sort of sense that we're on a prison planet and nothing is quite real or authentic. You know, like if you watch the kind of news that us lot are into, you'll know that there's just been a bunch of revelations that they're lying to us about the war between Ukraine and Russia, sustaining it unduly even though they don't believe it's winnable, presumably in order to continue funding the military-industrial complex. You'll be aware that they're never going to address inequality. You'll know that during the pandemic there was a massive wealth transfer that affected ordinary people, destroyed small businesses, messed with the education of ordinary kids, while generally speaking politicians carried on having high profile bashes, only wearing masks on camera. That's allegedly that last one, but there are like a bunch of examples of that kind of stuff. Like I'm talking about what's the one called in California? Gavin Newsom.
That's correct.
He was doing that kind of gear, and our lot, like
we have there's actual plenty of evidence of that actually happening. So we have like evidence of them not wearing masks and having big gatherings in the midst of COVID. I mean, they were the same people that were the biggest voices in the media talking about you need to wear a mask, you need a social distance, you need to stay inside. Meanwhile, they're outside not wearing masks, jam-packed together. It's blatant hypocrisy. Blatant hypocrisy. The fact that we're still not talking about that to any real degree on the main stage of global discourse is absolutely mind-boggling to me.
Rishi Sunak, he's like our 19th president in a prime minister. I don't know what we call him anymore. In like just the last couple of months, but he was the chancellor when Boris Johnson was having a party every half hour. Yeah. Like he only left one party to go to another party during the pandemic. All the while they were saying you better stay in your house. Never mind watching your nan die. You can watch it on the internet. They were all having a proper old knees up, gathering around a Bontempi organ, living it up down in Pringles.
Sunak was fined for it.
Sunak was.
Yeah, he got a fine for that.
He's a criminal. He's a simple criminal. I'm doing allegedly just in case. Allegedly. But if you've been fined...
I was thinking about the situation with Schumer there and the way he was talking to I guess it was the press, whoever it was,
Hello,
gathered,
everybody.
like obedient children. And when we know the kind of questions that the press came back and asked the press secretary around the Pentagon leak recently, they were all in that manner. It was like children, the best children at class get to ask that. You know when someone would come to your school and give a talk and your best kids, all the
Sit them up the front.
Sit them up the front, ask the questions.
You don't want the glue sniffers sat near
No,
the
I bet
front
you were right at the
coming
back,
out
were you?
weird questions. I wasn't a glue sniffer, but I was an
No.
unusual boy, and I might have said
I
something
can
strange.
imagine.
You would have done.
To
Clearly.
like a visiting dignitary. We've got the Countess of Wessex coming in. Excuse me, where did you get those tights? Can I wear your tights? Move along now, Russell. Sit at the back. You're ruining this school, and it's not a very good school anyway. So,
I can imagine he was a very loud, dramatic child, since he's kind of a loud, dramatic person. Not that that's a bad thing. Makes him an entertaining individual. But yeah, I imagine he didn't do well in a classroom setting.
Rishi Sunak, that daft headache of a man, is trying to engage himself in some crowd work. This is an extraordinary lack of ability. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to watch someone fail to engage a crowd in the manner that he does. We're living in a simulacrum. This whole thing isn't real. It's quaking. It's glitching. It's falling apart at the seams. That is good news for those of us that are radical. And that's why, using the analysis that it's no longer left versus right, but periphery versus centre, even the world's richest man can be a rhetorical radical because he's asking the right questions and he is a disruptor. Look at the people that don't like him and think, yeah, I don't like them. Cool. That's sort of basically one of my diagnostic tools. Let's look at Rishi Sunak, current Prime Minister of this country.
It helps.
WEF stooge, hedge fund millionaire, married to a billionaire. Let's have a look at him doing a bit of crowd work and think this guy would not do too well in pantomime or any children's entertainment. Check him.
Right, who's next? Anyone else? All good? No others from you? Anyone else have some questions before we get over to the media? Okay,
Wow.
gosh, it's very quiet. Anyway, actually, I'll broaden up. Do you have any questions on things that are not related to maths? I'm also fine for those.
No one's got any questions on anything.
I've got a question.
Not the
what were you
public
doing at
or
all
the
those
media?
parties and during the COVID lockdowns?
Not you. Over there. Anyone else? Any other questions? Any at all? What about how to reduce the debt? It's like it's become, I think it's dismantling before our very eyes. I think it's glitching itself into obsolescence.
It is self-cannibalizing. We're seeing
All
lots
fine?
of evidence of that.
Right,
for
okay,
sure.
well, we'll turn to the media for some questions. So we start with the BBC.
There's the upper corporate echelons and the major governmental bodies are rapidly beginning to destroy themselves from within. It's pretty crazy. But I'm not exactly sad to see it happen, to be honest.
Come on.
Right, who's next? Anyone else?
All right, I'm doing it. Give us a few softball questions. Maybe the reason that the machine is glitching and falling apart is because they're pumping us full of vapid, innocuous information like a bagel stuffed with cream cheese. In a minute, we're going to look at Elon and Tucker chatting about Facebook and Elon's assertion that Zuckerberg's essentially a propagandist for the Democrat Party. Maybe you don't mind that. I don't like either of the parties, to tell you the truth. But let's have a look at CNN.
No, neither of them
talking
cares about the
a cream cheese stuffed bagel.
actual
For a while. See how
individual
long you can
people's-
watch this before you start to feel despair.
Is it a bagel or more of a cream cheese donut?
It's a big question. Either way, carb lovers in the US will have a new treat, a bagel stuffed with cream cheese. It's the brainchild, if you can call
I don't like it being a brainchild, a child out of someone's brain that's made out of cream cheese and a donut. Revolting.
it that, of a New York bagel shop.
I feel
the
like a
makers of
donut's pretty
Philadelphia
distinctly
cream
different
cheese.
from a donut.
Always advertising something, they're advertising wars, weapons, and now cream cheese stuffed donuts. And that's why radical figures, whether you like them or not, like Tucker and Elon, start to get more traction because Tucker presents an interesting discourse. He is also a kind of an attack dog for the emotions of the masses. And Elon, in spite of being the world's richest man, yeah, you cried. Someone there, Stone Owen, said, I lasted 3 seconds with them donuts before I started to weep. Let's have a look at Elon and Tucker chatting together. Wait, we've got points to
I've
make
got
about the donut.
one little point about that, because it's like a funny, innocuous, essentially advertisement, isn't it? That's what we're looking at there, is what you'd prefer them to come out and say, because the reality is, CNN have been paid to do an advertisement for whoever that was, Philadelphia or whatever.
Do you think they're paid them for the bagel?
Well, in some form it's been paid. They advertise and therefore they get to, you know, it's... But basically this is the big pharma in action. This is just an innocuous, light-hearted version of what happens in the pandemic with the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, when you see stuff like Chuck Schumer going, put your hands up, it's reiterating the dynamic that you are children and the obedient children of the press will receive attention and get some focus and some shine, and the more recalcitrant children will be ignored. Rishi Sunak's apparent
This is my favorite analogy that he makes in terms of the interplay between government and the public it's supposed to serve, is that it's become a paternalized relationship where the government is the adults and the rest of the people that they govern are children that only need to be told, you know, the bare minimum, can be lied to if it's quote unquote in their best interest, and really they just need to follow the edicts of their superiors, and that is not at all what government is supposed to be. Not an actual democratic society. But of course, we don't have a truly democratic society. We barely sort of had one a long time ago, and it has become less and less so over the years. Last several decades, I would say it's been much closer to a an empire with a pageantry of picking your current emperor, where the emperor's advisors are the ones that are really running the show any fucking way. So it doesn't matter which emperor you pick. It's also a great video that is an analogy of this, of where it's like olden day America, back before slaves were freed. There's a bunch of slaves on a plantation, and you know they're ready to the freaking revolt. But then a guy shows up and he says, "Well, the plantation owner is no longer going to damn enslave you guys. You're all free now. But if you leave the plantation, you'll probably get killed by the other plantation owners who aren't willing to free slaves and don't want slaves to be free. So you might as well just stay here and work, so that we can produce a living for everybody." And somebody's got to run things, so, you know, the slave owner is the guy who's qualified to run things, so, you know, you might as well just let him continue to run things, but we know you guys might not like that, so we'll give you a choice between him and his cousin, who is going to run things practically the same way. And you see where I'm going with this, really. The slaves are given the illusion that they're free and that they have choice, but their choice is a false one, and they're not really free. And nothing changes, nothing of actual substance changes by the supposed choice they make. It's kind of what our democracy has become at this point.
Transparency of like, oh, you can ask me any questions, because we know it's a mock scenario that you couldn't actually say, yeah, can you tell me, did you profit from that hedge fund that was the main investor in Moderna? Did you profit from that, mate? Tell us then, tell us what was going on when you were attending those parties. You know, your wife's firm, they are partners with Davos and the WEF. Do you think that's a conflict of interest when you have to represent a sovereign nation, which will sometimes put you at odds with globalist interests? When a country has voted for Brexit, meaning they don't want to be part of an administrative body like the EU, whether or not you think that's to do with racism or anti-migration, it also seems like it's against centralised bureaucracy. Why are you thinking of yielding authority to the WHO? They don't want a serious conversation. They want want a conversation where you think about donuts and bagels stuffed with cheese, because that's how they think of your consciousness, your
Yes,
attention,
easily
mind
distracted child.
continually located and attached continually to meaningless, empty, hollow stories.
Vapid.
CNN are not a public
Vapid
broadcaster,
stories.
they're a private broadcaster, but they're significantly funded by the pharmaceutical industry, at least in terms of their advertising. They make a lot of their revenue by bundling up your information, your private data, and selling it to other marketing firms. And they are, to a degree, owned by Vanguard and BlackRock, I'll betcha. And in this country, there's about 6 people own all of the media outlets. I think in your country, America, it's a handful of billionaires and conglomerates that own all of the media. They can't have the real conversation, so they can emphasize and amplify emotion in areas where you can't do anything, because either party would do the same thing. For example, military industrial complex expenditure on wars, either party will do more or less the same thing, or they'll distract you with culture war issues, or on a good day, a bagel stuffed with cream cheese. Now that's why people like Tucker Carlson, even if you don't like Tucker, and I met him and he seemed like a pretty decent guy to me, I really liked him. Like, people say, oh, he's doing a bunch of dog whistle racism. I actually don't think they care. And I actually asked them about stuff like that, and they're like, oh, I just want to live my life. You know, like, let's not have all... Like, I reckon what we need is to decentralise power, and you run your community however you want, and it diffuses the argument. It defuses the argument. There's no need for us to be having these arguments. Certainly not on YouTube, where I have to be careful about what I say. And let's click over on the Rumble, where we can talk about real freedom. We're on here, not so that I can say crazy and divisive stuff or be irresponsible about the way we report about the pandemic in the last couple of years. Quite the contrary. In spite of my out-of-date headwear, you can rely on me more than any of those sideways Ross from Friends news anchors, or those stuffed shirts on CNN, or people that don't have the ability or right to speak truth to you because they're bought and paid for. Let's see Tucker chatting to Elon, see if we can glean any truth out of these.
The goal of New Twitter is to be as fair and even-handed as possible, so not favoring any political ideology, but just being fair at all.
Why doesn't Facebook do this? I know that Zuckerberg has said, and I take him at face value, that he... I do actually.
Damn. Elon's like, really? You take Zuckerberg at face value? Low-key shade, Elon. Low-key throwing the shade. You know, given Facebook's whole, oh, I did the noise thing again. This shit, I hate it. I'm sorry. But yeah, given Facebook's whole history with the fact checkers, no, quote unquote fact checkers, to believe that Zuckerberg is actually interested in being impartial, it does feel like a bit of a leap. So, fair enough on that one, Elon. The case is still out on Elon, though. I will say he's got a better track record so far than Zuckerberg by a country mile, though. So we'll give him that at least.
In this way, that he is a kind of old-fashioned liberal who doesn't like to censor. He has, but he, you know, like, why wouldn't a company like that take the stand that you have taken, which is pretty rooted in American traditional political custom, you know, for free speech?
My understanding is that Zuckerberg spent $400 million in the last election, nominally in a get-out-the-vote campaign, but really fundamentally in support of Democrats. Is that accurate or not accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
Does that sound unbiased to you?
No, it doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah, a bit of on the spectrum genius there from Elon
Ruthless,
Musk.
isn't he?
Yes.
Pretty ruthless.
Yes. Yeah, he's enjoyable. He's enjoyable. Come on here. We want him on here, don't we?
Yeah.
I'd go over there to get him on here. That's how much I want him on here.
Right.
I'd go there to get him on here.
Or drag him back here.
I wouldn't drag him.
No.
Because think of his resources.
Of course.
You know, like they could have private armies and stuff. Like, did you drag Elon? Yeah.
Hell of a story, though.
God, what a tale. It's a tale as old as time. Radical independent news journalist. That's Seymour.
You.
Yeah, I mean, Seymour Hersh's words, not mine. Drags billionaire needlessly onto EasyJet flight. Actually cannot cross the Atlantic. Hey, so listen, what we're actually fundamentally talking about is how information is funded and whether or not the funding of the information it creates an inflection and cadence within the information, whether there's an intention behind it. In a sane world, the media would be objective, or at least be aspiring to objectivity by offering impartiality. Objectivity might be
True objectivity is nigh unattainable, but yes, they should be doing their utmost to aim for that goal of objectivity. If they're the legitimate news source, if they're reporting information rather than interpreting information. But mostly out of our news, we get interpretations of information rather than objective reporting of information. So they're not even really reporters anymore, they're editorializers at best.
Philosophically impossible to achieve. But what is possible to achieve is say, look, we think this about the, I don't know, war between Russia and Ukraine, but there's also this perspective, or during the pandemic, we believe this is the best course of action. However, we would be remiss if we didn't include these voices and these concerns and doubts, or it's a continually evolving story. These are the latest studies. That's not how the media behaves. The media are essentially the henchmen of the state. That's why when the young buddy boy Texera makes those releases, the Pentagon Papers Part 2, that what you ultimately get is a media not only conveying the exact messaging that the government would want. Is it irresponsible that he did this? How irresponsible is it that he did this?
Who else tried this?
Would it make it worse? The New York Times are actually involved in chasing him. And I'll tell you who I was thinking of, Lovejoy. Like...
What?
Seems like a good reference.
Yes.
What?
Lovejoy is a British show that's starring Ian... Ian...
McCain or something?
Come on, someone knows. Ian McShane as Lovejoy. And this is what I mean. It's like, why are the New York Times, who are meant to be a newspaper, sending people to nick Buddy Texera? Because that's not their job. They're a newspaper.
Right.
Now, Lovejoy, he was meant to be an antique dealer.
But he would solve crime.
He was always solving a crime. Just sell them vases, mate.
Got it.
At an inflated price.
Yeah.
Just
Unduly
ornament that desk and then sell it at a profit. Someone just put up there that their mum was the costume designer. Is that you, Jamie?
I mean, this is great. This is
Lovejoy?
Great. Yeah, Lovejoy. I think the audience...
You don't like Lovejoy?
No, the audience, I think, this will resonate with them.
Of course they will. They love Ian McShane. He was in Deadwood or Driftwood or something. They loved that. Yeah,
oh my God, bro.
Selling antiques.
We're running out so far right now.
And his friend was called something like Pipkin or Snuffkin.
Pipsqueak or something.
Forever his best mate was called Pipkin. It was a great show. Listen, I've already given you serious information. What more do you want? In a minute, we're going to talk about those protests in France, how legit they are, and how the highest court in the land has verified Macron's undemocratic decision to ignore the protests and pass laws meaning French people will work even longer. Plus, it's exhausting being French. Have you ever seen them? They must be knackered from all the Frenchness. Oh, bonjour,
all the
glass of wine,
Frenchness.
etc. Knackering. Look at Biden.
So they know how to
Biden's
protest in
got an
front of
army
France,
of
though,
digital
I'll tell you that.
influencers now, ready for his next election campaign, optimistically. Elon is saying that the CBC is bugging them online, saying they're 69% government-funded media. Trudeau, who I think is one of the worst of these pretend to be nice, actually not nice type politicians, great hair, but does he care? Trudeau, is it Trudeau? Like, have a look at him here saying,
Great
like,
hair,
oh,
but does he
Elon
care?
Musk's
I
bang
like
out
that.
of order, etc. But then we'll show you something a few years earlier, a joke he made in private. It's going to knock your little socks off. Look at him now complaining about Elon declaring that the government funding behind certain media outlets. Check him out.
I think it says a lot about the Conservative Party of Canada, that they're choosing to constantly attack independent media organizations.
So I saw this actual clip already, and my response to it at that time, I think I actually like did a Twitter what do you call it, retweet, quote retweet. Yeah, I did think a quote retweet saying this man is very good. You know, you gotta give him credit where credit is due. This man is very good at moral grandstanding without actually saying anything of any substance. True to form, like a good politician. He's quite good at that. Listen to him.
Journalists who are working hard to keep Canadians informed and support our democracies.
That's all they're working hard to do is support them, support democracy.
Oh, I didn't play the whole
sponsored
thing.
by Ericsson. Look at Trudeau a few years ago, not that long ago. I think it's in 2019. It says there. Check it out. Where he just plainly admits.
You sometimes hear about liberal bias in the media these days, how they're constantly letting our government off the hook for no good reason. Frankly, I think that's insulting. It's clear that they let us off the hook for a very good reason, because we paid them $600 million.
There you go.
That will have got a laugh.
That one
because it was
aged
at
well.
One of those press dinners, which is another way that you know that the government and the press actually get on extremely well. Because in America and Canada and here, they do dinners where government officials and prime ministers and leaders do jokes and stuff for members of the press. It's like, oh, okay, you know, if you want us to think that you're not linked in the way that Elon Musk is talking about, maybe stop doing those dinners.
Maybe that'd be so obvious about it.
dinners.
Jeez.
The America's one, where it's where you do jokes about the president.
That's right.
I think I've been invited. But I don't think...
Turned it down?
I can't go places.
Oh, I see.
I can't go places.
No.
I wouldn't like
You
it
get
there.
too nervous.
Too nerve-wracking to go to a place. Anything could happen once you're out of the house, couldn't it? It's chaos out there. So look at the guy. Right, so in our country, the government spent more money than every single corporation and commercial interest in their endeavour to make us like them. Look at that, 163 million British pounds. Remember, that's more than $1, and he's also got the Queen.
Not anymore.
Leave her on there. I ain't ready for Charlie on me money. Are you, mate? I can't take Charlie on.
It's like, what, at least 2 times? Let's look at this. We're at like, it's like, what, 160? Because it goes a good ways past 150 in towards 175. It's gotta be like at 160. Oh no, then okay, I see the numbers. I was just having a brain lapse. 163. Amazon's at 67. So very close. Very close to 3 times the amount of money that Amazon spends on advertising. Is how much the United Kingdom's government spends on its advertising of itself, which is we'll put this into context. That is propaganda. That's what that is. Madness.
Me money? No way.
Not yet.
And do you see how they've changed it from Queen Consort to just Queen?
Oh dear. Too soon.
Diana! Is it Christmas already?
I don't know what's that.
Okay, so look at that. That's the government spending all that
Such
money
an
on
over-the-top individual, huh?
propagandizing us. But over in America, look, it's Big Pharma that dominate all the advertising. The outlay on ads by the tech industry fell over the first 2 months of the year. They're number 2 in the charts. The biggest story is that Pharma doubled down, increasing its share of total spending from 12% to 14%. So I think the biggest spender on advertising is Pharma, and number 2 is Big Tech. Where are the MIC in there? Look at that. There they go. There's all the billions that are being spent.
Bro.
4.5 billion. We've got another one on this. Is there another still on this? Or is that all of them?
I'm not sure there is. I think that's all. I mean, this, you know, when you discover, and I think Michael Schellenberg was talking about this the other day, maybe yesterday, and the kind of trust from the American public in media, it's no wonder, is it? The more and more access to information we have about things like this, that the pharmaceutical industry is the biggest sponsors of basically network cable television.
Yeah, give us the information.
You know, it's like, no wonder trust is diminished to an all-time low when you know things like that.
They complain about figures like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you continue to find out things that are getting reported to us outside of traditional media sources right now, it really does make it a wonder that people have any trust whatsoever in these institutions anymore. It's not even the mind-boggling part. Isn't the fact that they're so untrustworthy. It's that there's actually still people that trust these people. It's crazy.
And Tucker, but actually what they never address is the problem that's led to the rise of disruptive voices. If you had a decent, moral government a fair, authentic and transparent media, then these radical voices wouldn't seem so extraordinary, exciting and enlivening, because there wouldn't be an environment that's so thirsty for authenticity of any kind. And that isn't to undermine some of the things that Donald Trump said that were a little bit out there, let's face it. Okay, we're going to, if you're watching us on YouTube and you're having the time of your life right now, I understand why, because you're getting dosed up on truth. There's more truth in this show than there is cream cheese in a new New York bagel, baby. We're stuffed, brimming over with truth, whether it's wisdom and insights into Lovejoy, a 1980s British TV show, or an interrogation on advertising expenditure within the mainstream. It's a bit noise somewhere. Where am I picking that noise up from?
I can hear noise.
What is it?
Who knows? Is it Lovejoy?
Lovejoy, is that you?
Lovejoy's come back.
It's got to be in the gallery.
Gone.
There he is.
There he is. There's Lovejoy.
I'd like to see the titles, actually, myself.
Right. Maybe at the end of the show.
But we can't, yeah, something to look forward to. But we can't put that ahead of the WHO's new plans for a global pandemic treaty and possibly world domination. If you're watching this now on YouTube, click over to watching this exclusively on Rumble. You're not going to believe how undemocratic this stuff is. They want your tax dollars. They want the right to pass laws. They're up to all sorts of crazy stuff. YouTube, we're clicking off now. Join us over on Rumble. So, the member states of the World Health Organization.
Okay, now we gotta do the switch of. Give me a moment, please.
Together the tiles and
liberal.
Embarrassing. It's embarrassing. So listen, what we're actually fundamentally talking about is
Well, I do this. I know that Zuckerberg has said, and I take him at face value, that he. I do actually.
Okay. We got it set up. And we just returned the window. Welcome to the. Whoa. Do that. Oh, damn. See, I wanted this to be smooth. I wanted it to pop up and look perfect. And it didn't, because I got ahead of myself. I got like the basic part set up and then didn't follow up with the rest. There we go.
Mainstream. It's a bit noise somewhere. Where am I picking that noise up from?
I can hear noise.
What is it?
Who knows? Is it Lovejoy?
Lovejoy, is that you?
Lovejoy's come back.
It's got to be in the gallery.
Gone.
There he is.
There he is. There's Lovejoy.
I'd like to see the titles, actually, myself.
Right. Maybe at the end of the show.
But we can't, yeah, something to look forward to. But we can't put that ahead of the WHO's new plans.
Yeah, welcome
for a
back,
global
Bad Tunes.
pandemic.
Welcome back, my man. No worries on leaving last time. I'm just glad you decided to join us again today. We got another new chatter earlier today. That was quite an interesting thing. You have time to check out the VOD later. You should look at that. But now we're, I think, about to go into some stuff about the WHO, which is one of my favorite topics, because this is one hell of a messed up situation that this organization has the amount of power that it does. And it's messed up the things they're proposing for the world to do moving forward. So I'm excited for this this portion of the segment.
Treaty and possibly world domination. If you're watching this now on YouTube, click over to watching this exclusively on Rumble. You're not going to believe how undemocratic this stuff is. They want your tax dollars. They want the right to pass laws. They're up to all sorts of crazy stuff. YouTube, we're clicking off now. Join us over on Rumble. So, The member states of the World Health Organization have agreed to a global process to draft and negotiate a convention, agreement, or other international instrument under the Constitution of the World Health Organization to strengthen pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. What an irritating little tongue twister that is. Let's have a look at the bullet points. According to the draft, half the pandemic products allocated to the WHO should be donated, while the other half will be bought for an accessible price. So a lot of it's about finance and profiting. No less than 11 of the draft's 49 clause preamble deal in one way or another deals with intellectual property rights, signaling the key battleground for upcoming negotiations.
So no less than 11 of the draft's 49 clause preamble deal in one way or another with intellectual property rights, signaling the key battleground for upcoming negotiations. So there's 49 clause. 11 out of 49 is what? Like 20% roughly. So 1/5 of the deal consists of discussions over intellectual property rights. Say this is signaling a key battleground for upcoming negotiations. So the World Health Organization is worried about having exclusive control over certain intellectual property. That's an interesting thing for them to be that concerned about. Hopefully we get some more information about that. Bad Tunes, I hope you and your family are doing good, man.
Do you remember that during the last pandemic, like the nations that were most heavily vaccinated were the ones that would pay for it, and the ones that wouldn't pay for it or couldn't pay for it or they couldn't get patents sorted or manufacturing deals sorted, they just didn't vaccinate them. Can we have a look at what the figures are for how COVID played out in those territories where they didn't have access to the vaccine? Presumably you can. Presumably you can say, oh, they lost this many people, there were this many deaths from comorbidities.
Could be statistics, yeah.
One thing those poor nations are good for is case studies for what happens if you can't afford vaccines and whether or not it was
certainly won't
beneficial.
be giving them. If you can't afford them, you ain't getting them.
Yeah, that's it. So it shows that
What
at
is the
least
World
one
Health
component was
Organization
profit,
for
because otherwise
them?
you'd give it to everyone, right? That makes sense, doesn't it? These clauses in this new treaty they're drawing up recognise the protection of intellectual property rights is as important for the development of new medical products, but highlights the impact on price and access.
Wow.
So, like, you'd think the World Health Organization should be solely about the health of the world's people. They should be about, one, preventing pandemics, two, treating pandemics, three, having a global perspective on what a pandemic does to a population, its economic impact, its psychological impact, the effects on addiction and mental health and economic. You have to have a holistic approach to something that's as complex and all-encompassing as a pandemic. They went down the route of lockdowns and vaccines and masks. They made it divisive and politicized. They upped surveillance. They upped data capture. They created more opportunities to surveil. They did all of the things that on the surface of it seem beneficial to states that want the ability to control and pharmaceutical companies that want the ability to profit. I'm not saying anything as grandiose or extreme as that the vaccines were ineffective, although there was a story recently that the
First, we've seen a lot of evidence that vaccines were not any more effective than natural immunity, and that the COVID outbreak was barely any more lethal than the common flu we get every year. And yet it was used as an opportunity for governments around the world to seize more centralized power and gather more information than ever before on its citizens at unprecedented levels, and saw a massive propping up of a failing medical market in America. So, I mean, these things make you wonder. I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to say too much here, but it makes you wonder. You look at these kinds of facts, and they are established facts. You really got to wonder what was going on with all that. And I'm doing pretty good, Bad Tunes. Doing pretty good. About as good as can be expected in these troubling times, you know?
booster shot may do more harm than good, in that 1 in 8, they're reporting now 1 in 800 doses is leading to an adverse event or injury, and you need to vaccine 100,000 people to prevent one hospitalization. By simple mathematics, therefore, it is worse for you than it is good for you. You can do the maths yourself in your own little head, but those figures are pretty accurate, I think. Yet still, the WHO are treating it like it's an economic proposal and an opportunity to support pharmaceutical interests and bypass democracy. All this while the people of France are burning down their own cities and towns out of frustration. Riots is the voice of the voiceless. Riots is what you do when you've had just about enough.
And you have
Riots
no
is what you do when there ain't nothing left to you. So let's have a
Yeah, exactly. When you have nothing left to eat. Rioting is what happens, at least generally speaking. Obviously, there are caveats, but generally speaking, a riot is what happens when the voiceless feel that they have no other recourse to express their discontent, and their discontent is reached a boiling point. We got a whole ass nation boiling over in France, which is absolutely crazy. Though the France are known for their rebelliousness. They started World War I with decapitating one of their government heads, so there's that. But yeah, I feel like they're kind of canaries in the coal mine in terms of pointing out on the global stage when things are getting really out of hand, because their riots tend to line up in that regard. So the fact that things are getting as crazy as they are in France is a serious indicator of what things are going on globally that are just playing out of hand.
Look at this direct quote from this zero draft treaty cost. So this is, I guess it's a preliminary draft to something they're going to try and push through. Yep. Commit to prioritise and increase or maintain domestic funding by allocating in its annual budgets not lower than 5% of its current health expenditure to pandemic prevention. So it's wanting to centralise 5% of all health expenditure from all of the countries that are members. 5% will be 7.5 billion for our country and Wales. Half the general practice budget. General practice means going to see like your regular family doctor, which is a crisis in this country. People can't get to see doctors, and one of the things they like to amp up is, oh, it's because of immigrants and stuff like that. But you know what it comes down to: funding. All the fundings get funneled.
So 5% is half of the general practice budget. That means general practice, the normal daily health care for individuals, is not more than 10% of the medical budget. That seems wrong. That seems wrong. Oh, man. The news is never good on these topics. It's disheartening. We have to find something positive to look at here soon, because, jeez, a lot of negative stuff at the moment.
Upwards, you know that there's been a wealth transfer, so that's what's really happening. Gal, you got to see your...
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that we haven't touched on yet is, I mean, I know it seems maybe a bit cliched and obvious, but Bill Gates' role in this. So I guess one of the things that has come through this treaty and that people are kind of warning against is the amount of money that might be generated through this. If governments are giving 5%, for example, in England and Wales, 7.5 billion, that's quite a lot. Between all the members of the WHO, that's quite a lot of money generated. And obviously Bill Gates, the Gates Foundation, is the second largest contributor to the WHO. As of September 21, it invested nearly 800 million in its programs. So it says in quotes, for an intergovernmental organisation such as the WHO to be so reliant on private philanthropy, especially one whose leaders of personal interest and investments in healthcare, is problematic. Private foundations' resources tend to be more dependent on the stock market and other investments and could have financial interests that run contrary to their stated missions. So that is the risk, I suppose, of doing something whereby, you know, multiple countries sign up to something that then the control is down to potentially one person or one foundation.
Or even just to market forces.
Guys? Do you think that Bill Gates...
An organization that's supposed to be about the health and well-being of the global population being most strongly influenced by market forces, more so than anything else, is problematic, I think, on its face. I mean, even if we, you know, put aside whether or not the small number of individuals that are really in charge have the best agendas in mind and need to have as much control as they would be getting in that situation, put that aside. just leaving the World Health Organization to be most impactfully influenced by market forces than anything else is a problem on its face. I don't understand how that would not be an obvious fact.
Through his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, is able to exert undue influence over an apparently democratic body like the WHO, even though none of us vote for it, and the democracy achieved there is through the representatives that participate within those kind of little elections that they...
Okay, completely side tangent here. I just noticed that on his jacket is hold on, let me go big mode. Let me go big mode. Hold on. Do the thing. Give me a second.
They hold their election.
Okay. You see, right here on his chest, over his heart, it says Gemini. I too am a Gemini. Not that I take a lot of stock in these, but I find that I have a decent amount in common with this man. And I found another thing interesting. This intrigues me. I don't think there's just not a... I think it's just that there's not 100%... There's no government that's 100% good. There's no government that is 50% good. I don't think. I mean... Yeah, I think you'd really struggle to find a government that's 50% good. That's a serious problem. We should be at least majority good, or if we're gonna maintain the government. Like otherwise, we need to do something different. If we're not hitting at least majority good, but I don't think we can even hit 50%. Like the amount of corruption and blatant deception to the voting public, and the amount of misappropriation of tax dollars. Like, I mean, this is going on globally. It doesn't even matter what government we're talking about. It's all pretty corrupt. And like I said, the World Health Organization has massive influence, has gained massive influence over many governments, and they're not even a voted body. You know, this is a privately constructed and funded organization. Nobody voted on these people. I mean, that's blatant corruption right there. That's got its fingers in all the pots. So, yeah, I mean, I think we're far from a passably good government existing on the face of this earth right now. I do use OBS. Yes, I do.
Within which we are not consulted. Where do you think the influence and power is coming from? And do you think that this atrophying democratic process, the failure of our current systems, is what's leading to people rising up on the streets, in particular in France? These French protests are fantastic. Well, I mean, you know, like people getting hurt and shit getting burnt down and stuff. But what's fascinating is that people are beginning to correctly diagnose the nature of the problem. Democracy doesn't work. Democracy will never work. There's no one you can vote for that's ever going to make a difference. They take those people right off the bat.
Okay, so I'm going to argue with that completely. I think what he's trying to say here is probably true. I'm not going to for sure say it is, but what he's trying to say here is probably true. Because I think what he's actually trying to say is that republics don't work. Because that's what we actually have. We don't have a democracy. We have a democratic republic, which really just means we have a republic. And a republic means you vote representatives. The actual people do not directly vote on any decisions, any of them whatsoever. They vote on people who then vote on decisions on their behalf. That's what a republic is. I don't think that works. I would agree that that doesn't work. Democracy has never truly been tried yet. Sort of, kind of, maybe a little bit was in Greece, and sort of, kind of, a little bit is in America, but both not really. Both were at least as much republics as they are democracies, and I think both were actually far more republics than they were democracies. Because again, all the decisions pretty much got made by the elected representatives. That's what a republic does. So yeah, we're gonna go with real democracy hasn't really been tried yet. It's also unfathomably difficult to do. For everybody in the population to vote on every decision would be crazy. I have some ideas about that, but that's a long form conversation that I'll have to dive into at some point later. It's because of power. I do agree that you can't have a government person without them being corrupted. But it's a power issue. Like I was saying, I don't think republics work. I don't think representatives in that fashion. They just naturally accrue too much power. You should be in a servant type position if we're going to even try this whole republic thing and do it remotely right. It should be a servant position. They should give them no extra power. They should be very heavily monitored, and they should be very carefully made to only vote, with their power in the interests that exactly represent the people who elected them. But again, I don't even think that really works. You really just need to have a direct democracy where every decision pretty much is voted on by every person. Doing that has got a lot of nuanced difficulty to it, but I think it actually is possible. Again, a long form conversation for another time. You think the whole voting thing is fake? It depends what you mean by that. I think voter fraud actually definitely does happen. To say that the entire thing is completely rigged, I don't think so. But to say that they can get the votes to be close enough that they can then fudge it and make it go which way they want, I think that's probably true. I think you can manipulate public opinion to get things somewhat close to the way you want them to be, and then you could just fraudulently fudge the results a bit and get it to finally tip over in exactly which way you want it to go. I think that's probably what happened when Joe Biden got elected, for instance. Yeah, I don't think you can actually completely fake it, but like I said, if you can get the voting to come close enough to one way or the other, to where it's never a hugely tipping scale against the way you want it to be, then you can fudge it from there, as long as the line is a little blurry. If the line gets too stark of a difference, then you can't. I don't think you can get away with just completely fucking changing things. Like, so if 70% of America voted for something and 30% voted against it, I don't think you could institute the 30% way. But if you can control public opinion enough to get it to more like a 55-45, 52-48, then yeah, you can fudge that and make the 48 win for sure. It's definitely kind of fixed. I think it's undeniable, really, if you start looking at the evidence. There's lots of evidence of voter fraud. And so you can just in particular look at the last presidential election where Joe Biden got elected. I think there's a good amount of evidence into that, but yeah, you start looking into the weeds of even more minor elections, and you can see that they're rigged. And then that doesn't even go into anything about the way that lobbyists buy out congressional and senatorial votes to get laws passed through the House of Representatives. So I mean, in many different angles, the entire system is rigged. Absolutely.
Even relatively moderate candidates like Bernie Sanders are nixed by the Democrat Party because they would make something of a difference. I know a lot of you lot don't like him, do you? Because you think, he's got big houses and all that kind of gear. But the fact is, if they don't want him being a nominee, that means something. And now we're in a situation where to have some impact, to have some reach, you got to take to the streets. Right after this, we're going to be speaking to Dave Rubin, the madcap inventor of locals, as well as a certain type of gay, we claim. And he's also,
What
the
is
Rubin report. He's
focus
a
on
brilliant
that
reporter
is?
and our friend over at Rumble. For that, let's have a look at France burning down. And importantly, their attacks on BlackRock. What do they know? What we don't know. Here's the news. No.
Here's the
effing
fucking news.
No, here's the fucking news.
France burns as Macron legislates on behalf of the elites and gets verified by the highest courts in the land. The protesters target BlackRock. Is this global protest a response to the fact that we're never gonna build back better? Today's story focuses on the ongoing protests in France. The highest constitutional courts in the land have just verified Macron's decision to raise the pension age. But really what French people are protesting is the fact that democracy is meaningless now and that their government clearly operates on behalf of corporate and financial elites. This is a global problem. And the fact that they're protesting outside BlackRock is not an indication that they think BlackRock are directly involved, although BlackRock are involved in a hell of a lot of things. It's just that people have started to intuitively understand that democracy is not the answer. If you can have administrative and legislative action take place that's clearly against the will of the people, then it's necessary to protest. It's necessary to mobilize. And you'll notice that simultaneously, police are becoming more militarized, protest laws are being introduced, almost as if the elites are preparing now for the next phase. Let's have a look at the story as the mainstream media would have you understand it.
Anger that's been growing in France boils over into red-hot rage. Thousands gathered for one final protest before the country's constitutional court cleared the path for the president to bring in his pension reform.
It's interesting that they're protesting around those Olympic rings. That's the illusion of France. That's the corporate globalist image. We're holding the Olympics. Everything's fine. But the people of France are enraged and furious. They're a country more given to protest than a country like mine, the UK. But even here, nurses and junior doctors and healthcare workers are protesting for the same reason everyone's protesting, really. Global elites are increasingly finding ways of bypassing democracy. During the pandemic, there was a huge wealth transfer, and people feel a
Massive
general
wealth
sense
transfer.
of unease and obviously are painfully aware of economic inequality, of a deterioration in the conditions of their life, and the inability to do anything about it through democracy. We know that in most countries, all significant parties are generally owned by the same financial and corporate interests. That's why people are taking to the streets. And even with all these protests, the highest constitutional court in France verified Macron's decision, increasing the age before which you can receive a pension. Isn't it interesting how bewildered we've become? We regard the state like a parent that we have to appeal to and continually appease. We forget that they just work for us, actually. All of their money, all of the money that's ending up with a military-industrial complex, all of the money that's being spent in various ways that most of us don't approve of, comes from us. 40% of your time, 30% of your time, 50% of the time.
So he continues to make this analogy, and I do really think it's pretty accurate. Where you have the government acting in like a parental manner, where the government officials are the adults, and the rest of the governed populace are the children. And they only need to be told the minimal amount of things. They shouldn't ask questions, need to follow instructions. They can be lied to if it's for, quote unquote, for their own benefit, and that's perfectly justifiable. And opposing authority is to be frowned upon, and supporting authority is to get a gold star or to get a cookie. And it's a very patronizing and obviously corrupt, power-hungry type of system, and it's clearly what we're dealing with at this point. The way that a lot of government officials have been caught saying things that show how much disdain they have for the populace that they govern is mind-boggling. And what's even more mind-boggling is how much we still continue to allow this behavior. Like, no one's doing anything about it yet. I know obviously people are getting more and more discontent, and we're starting to see that, but yeah, we still have the same governmental structures that we have. We still argue over, whether Democrats or Republicans are better, and it's like deciding whether or not it's better to get beaten over the head or punched in the stomach. How about neither?
Depending on your country and your tax bracket, is being spent working for them. You should have some say in how they behave. And the fact you have to burn down your own cities in order to be heard shows you the point we're at historically. And the general apathy that many of us feel is not the apathy of, oh no, I just want to watch the new Mario Brothers movie. It's the apathy of, this doesn't do anything, does it? It doesn't matter if you vote for Blair or Clinton or Obama or whoever.
I'll see you again later.
You're going to get the same
Awesome.
result.
If not, have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.
Sri Lanka or the Netherlands or the UK
Have a good one, Bad
or
Tunes.
France or across America, you are seeing the rise of protest movements. And instead of parties emerging now that are addressing the concerns of these suddenly emergent mobs, what you're getting is the militarization of the police force, more surveillance laws, more distraction, more crap. We actually have to awaken now.
The democracy is dead today.
We're just more angry to not be listened, and we'll not go home now.
They say they intend to keep fighting, but constitutionally, this is the end of the road.
The problem with mass uprisings is it's harder for the mainstream media to do the job of the government and smear them. If it's just one person, they can say, oh, this person's a crackpot, look at their history. But when it's a mob in the street, it becomes difficult, not impossible, you remember the Canadian truckers, to smear them and say, oh, what these people are motivated by is they hate our freedoms, they're misogynist, they're racist. The fact is that ordinary people, generally speaking, have more in common with one another than they have with the elites that govern them. And generally speaking, we understand and know that. Division has to be stoked. Stories of division, of fracture and fragmentation have to be continually told. The culture has to pump you full of divisiveness so that we can't awaken from the fog and say, hang on a minute, we could organise things better than this, couldn't we?
President Macron is yet to address the public in the wake of the court ruling and showed no signs of concern on a visit to Notre Dame Cathedral while protesters marched through the streets.
As usual, the ridiculous illusion of the politician in the hard hat. Oh, Notre Dame is coming on really well. What's that sound? People fighting? It must be that bloody hunchback. It can't be people protesting in the streets because you're nicking their pensions. Hold on, what is the hunchback saying? Could I have my pension back, please? Esmeralda! Shut up, you fucking hunchback!
Protesters in France storming the offices of BlackRock overnight as violence continues to plague Paris. It was part of large-scale protests over President Emmanuel Macron's push to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64.
I suppose one of the things that's promising is that it's not a left-wing or right-wing protest. It's a popular uprising. This is what we're going to need more of in order to change the systems that we currently live with.
Which you could call a bipartisan uprising. They use bipartisan, such a buzz term in America of like, oh, this is a really important issue when it's, a bipartisan issue that, is agreed on by both parties. We need an agreement by both sides of the people, not the government officials, but the people, to say, hey, this system doesn't freaking work and we need to do something about it. And I think it's actually coming soon. I think we'll see some real headway in that regard in the not too distant future.
Within. We can't say, well, I only like these kind of right-wing protests or I only like these left-wing protests. We're going to have to put aside those kind of divisions and focus on what's important. That seems to be happening somewhat organically in France. Perhaps if these protests are successful, we will see attempts to dismiss them or define them as right-wing or fascist in order to undermine the legitimacy of the protest. That's what happens continually. Is what they're protesting for legitimate? Is it reasonable? Is it fair that they're having to work for longer? Because the argument cannot be addressed because the argument is correct, eventually they will have to attack the protesters.
BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager. They work with private pension funds.
So even if it's not a direct protest against BlackRock, it is an understanding of the tangential relationships between BlackRock and pensions more generally. Let's have a look at the story. Demonstrators forced their way into the building that houses BlackRock's office in Paris last week. The meaning of this action is quite simple. We went to the headquarters of BlackRock to tell them the money of workers for our pensions, they are taking it. Jerome Schmidt, spokesman for the French union SUD, told CNN affiliate BFM TV. BlackRock declined to comment. Since his election, Macron has been intent on ignoring or crushing any form of opposition. Always a good sign of democracy. In his first term, the National Assembly was reduced to a rubber stamping chamber where the president's majority voted in lockstep for any government project. Issues as important as the war in Ukraine, arms deliveries to Kiev, and sanctions against Russia were not subject to serious debate or put to a vote. The unemployment benefit reform was given an accelerated passage, and controversial measures have been introduced stealthily by decree. As soon as disagreement arises, Macron resorts to force, ignoring checks on power to power, not even deigning to meet the unions campaigning against the pension reform despite their repeated requests. Democracy now is an illusion. It's a man in a white hat outside a cathedral while Paris burns. This arrogance can only fuel disillusionment with democracy and strengthen the feeling that the political game is inaccessible to most. This is true in your country, America, in Canada, in the UK, in the Netherlands, in India, in Sri Lanka. Our governments have been co-opted by centralised financial and corporate interests to varying degrees. What we are given are palliatives and distractions rather than democracy. You can argue about things that do not affect their economic interests. You can watch things that do not affect their economic interests. You can get involved in cultural debates. What you cannot do is impede their attempt to fulfill their agenda. It also illustrates the arrogance of elites when confronted with popular anger and their propensity to deceive, lie, and to conceal to achieve their ends, while at the same time revealing institutional decay. So if BlackRock are not directly involved in this, maybe they are, difficult to tell, they're quite an opaque organisation. What have BlackRock been up to lately? BlackRock ended 2022 with $10.2 trillion in assets. That's the first time any money manager has surpassed that milestone. BlackRock, Vanguard and State Street hold about 1/5 of the shares in the top 500 companies on the US stock exchange. BlackRock's aggressive initiatives, a mix of lobbying, campaign contribution and networking, were key to this success. BlackRock has also forged deep connections to Washington's political class, following in the footsteps of banks like Goldman Sachs. So how do you think democracy works really? Do you think your little vote makes a difference, or do you think the lobbying, campaign donations and networking are more significant in forming the shape of the systems that most of us live within? In April 2021, during the pandemic, the Wall Street Journal reported BlackRock's profits rose 49%. So a time that might have meant closure of small business, a time that might have meant your children stopped going to school, a time that might have meant that you saw loved ones die. No matter where you stand on the spectrum, and believe me, I don't feel that that's the most important issue anymore, BlackRock did great. 49% increase in profits. If the most powerful interests in the world benefit from crisis, what incentive is there to stop crisis from happening? So while we were told we were going to be building back better, what actually happened in the last couple of years? According to Oxfam's annual inequality report, the richest 1% of people have captured nearly twice as much new wealth as the rest of the world combined since the pandemic. Their fortunes soared by 26 trillion, increasing their share of new wealth from 50% to 2/3. The breakdown of these figures exposes how on a global basis extreme wealth is accumulated not by innovating or increasing production, but by taking advantage of rising prices and exploiting labour. In this effort, wealthy people are enabled by a lack of regulation and taxation. The result is a bonanza of plunder with no sheriff in town. We're continually told that if you were to regulate markets or try to control this kind of globalist interest, that's stopping entrepreneurs and free market capitalism. We don't have that anymore. This wealth transfer is not a result of geniuses in laboratories coming up with stuff. It's a result of people buying, accumulating, spread betting, stuff that's more akin to informed gambling than true free market ingenuity. This has been happening for a while, but the pandemic accelerated the trend. They benefited from rising costs by using them as an alibi to charge higher than inflation prices, then distributing the rewards as dividends instead of higher wages. Food and energy corporations made a killing, making $306 billion in windfall profits in 2022, then distributing 84% to shareholders. They benefited from stimulus packages that pushed up asset prices. They benefited from low interest rates that helped them to expand their property empires. According to Credit Suisse, lower interest rates and government support programs resulted in a huge transfer of wealth from the public sector to private households, which saw their debts lowered and the value of their assets, shares and properties rise. The obscenity of this system is made possible by the dramatically diminished bargaining power of labour. Weak labour is cheap labour. The purpose is to
Ooh, another good phrase. Weak labor is cheap labor. Undermine your labor force's will and voice, and you will have the ability to pay them pennies rather than dollars. Chilling perspective, but a real one that is clearly shared by our corporate overlords.
Transform the human worker into a machine that can be switched off when not in use. In 2020, Amazon's UK sales soared by half to 19.4 billion. In 2021, an investigation in Britain found that the company was bypassing its own employment standards by hiring thousands of zero-hours workers through agencies. These workers have no employment protections, their shifts can be cancelled at the last minute, and there is no guarantee of tenure of employment. But it is successful tax avoidance that is the strongest pillar propping up global inequality, and its dismantling would be the quickest solution. There is little chance of that happening soon. Tax regimes, like much of the conventional economic wisdom about the benefits of wealth creation to all, are increasingly out of step with not only the needs of poor people, but with what is required for the health of our economies. What's most striking about the post-pandemic profit boom is the truly global nature of the problem. It's not only the hope of a world recalibrated by COVID towards stronger public infrastructure that is turning to dust in our mouths. An older dream is dying too, of a post-Cold War globalization that was supposed to bring us all closer, usher in a utopia of free trade, growth, employment and sustainable development. What this model of globalization ended up achieving was standardizing ways for wealthy people to pay as little as possible, concentrating economic activity on those with purchasing power and hanging the rest out to dry. So what is globalization about really? Is it about creating a fairer world, or is it about creating a utopia where powerful elites can enact their agenda in countries as diverse as Sri Lanka, France, the UK, the US, the Netherlands, all the while creating narratives that suit their agenda wherever appropriate? That this country's suddenly racist, that this country doesn't care about the climate, that these nurses and doctors are greedy. This behemoth stands astride the globe and is able to legislate freely without opposition. And even when opposition does rise up, they know that the police are getting militarized, protest laws are coming, and an obedient media will portray protesters however is convenient to shut down meaningful protests. So France may continue to burn. Will it make any difference? Will it be able to interrupt this globalist agenda? What I believe is we now have to form a true global movement that focuses on whatever agenda is applicable in our nation, overlooks cultural differences in order to come together temporarily in order to achieve shared goals. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments of the chat. I'll see you in a second.
Thank you for choosing Fox News. No, here's the fucking news.
We would not be able to make this fantastic content without our sponsors. That's why I've got to ask you right now, and I need an honest answer. Do you suffer from brain fog, distraction, fatigue? Do you? Is there a secret elixir that can give you energy, vim, chutzpah, moxie? Get up and go get 'em. Yes, there bloody well is. Heights. With just 2 capsules a day, you can enjoy clarity, focus, sleep, calm. Each capsule is packed with all the vegan omega-3s and vitamins B, C and D that we need to support our frankly fragile mental health. Heights couldn't be further away from the evils of Big Pharma. They're all about transparency. Look, you can even see through the capsule. That's transparency. All the ingredients are in the most bioavailable forms so your body can absorb and use them. No synthetic crap, just pure, unadulterated goodness. Get a head start and use brand 15 for 15% off your first box of Heights Smart Supplement. That's brand 15 for 15% off your first box of Heights Smart Supplement. Trust me, your brain and your body will thank you. Now, let's go back to other version of me talking about the government, big tech, the military industrial complex, and things that are a lot more opaque than this. Ruben report. Joining me's Dave Rubin, sexy and a groovin', bringing us the news with his cohorts. Ruben. All right, Dave Rubin, thanks for joining us from the Rubin Report, and thank you for using your brain and impressive hair to invent locals.
Wow, coming from a guy with your head of hair, I take that as the highest compliment, and we can end this. But before we do anything else, Russell, before you threw to the break there, you introed me. I wrote it down because I thought it was so curious. You said a certain type of gay we claim. I thought the we claim there was the interesting part. I suppose I am a certain type of gay. I'm not the most stereotypical gay, I suppose is, you know, something. But I like the we claim part.
It was our
I don't know
claim.
what to make of it.
Well, me and Garrett.
Yo, welcome back, Bad Tunes. Dude, they made a thing about this in the beginning of this podcast. They were saying they were gonna have this guy on, and that he invented a new type of gay, and now they finally got the guy on, and he's addressing this, and I can't wait to see Russell explain himself now.
We're making the claim that you're the gay man that it's okay for the heterosexual man to think about being gay with, and that was our claim.
That's actually the dream of most gay men, but I am what I am. It's all that I am, you know?
I love you for that, Dave, and that is precisely what we've been highlighting. Yes, I've seen some of those videos where the gay man likes to convert, seduce, or inveigle the non-gay man into what can only be described as gayness.
There's probably some other ways you could describe it, but yeah. You know, it's funny, though, for real. Like, there's this weird thing with gays that they're obsessed with straight acting. You know, this is a thing, like, if you just sort of act straight, whatever the hell that is, I guess more masculine or something. But it's kind of funny, because I was closeted for a long time because I just didn't feel gay. I thought gay meant you like show tunes and you dance and all that stuff, and I really wasn't into that. You know, I like sports and I like comedy and that kind of thing. But I always sort of, when I would meet guys who were like a little more effeminate, I kind of liked it because I was like, oh, they are who they are. I thought I was just like some sort of repressed mess. Like there was a little gay man inside me trying to break forth, like a little gay midget in here, just like trying to get out and free himself. But that was, I just tried to be gay for you. Did that do anything?
Yeah, I liked it. When you were being all repressed, though, you must have been thinking a lot of like stuff about having sex with men.
What show are we doing right now? We have to talk about this. It's a little early in the day.
Wait, so we've got a broad remit.
I always tell people I'm only gay after 10 p.m., my friend. It's only noon here, but I'll try for you. Yeah. I mean, I was definitely repressed and closeted for a long time, really into my late mid to late 20s. I'll tell you, actually, this is completely true. The first person that I came out to, believe it or not, was my friend Mike. We were in the Times Square subway station at about 12:30 a.m. on September 11th, 2001. Literally 7 hours later in New York City, that horrific disaster was about to happen. But I had this secret. I was 25 years old already. Finally reveal this secret. 25 is very late to come out. I finally reveal the secret. I wake up in the morning and America is under attack. I kid you not. I thought it had something to do with me. I'm really not kidding. Because when you're in the closet, there's only room for one. That's why they call.
Hold up. I gotta run that back in a second. Russell is actually married to a woman. He was married to Katy Perry to like 2012, I think. It was like 2007 to 2012, something like that. He's married to Katy Perry for a while. And they got divorced. And then he's married to some other chick now, and has been since 2017, I think. I just looked this up like earlier because I was curious as well. I didn't know. Like I watch a decent amount of Russell Brand, but I've never looked that deeply into his personal life. But he was making some comments about being closeted, you know, about having never explored whether or not he was gay or some shit. Some joke along those lines. And so I'd looked into it. But yeah, he's married. I gotta run this back.
Called the closet secret. I wake up in the morning and America is under attack. I kid you not. I thought it had something to do with me.
Yeah, that man said I came out of the closet and then America blew up. I did not do something wrong. Holy fuck, what a thought to have, bro. Like, the Twin Towers come fucking down 7 hours after he comes out of the closet, and his fucking first thought is, oh my god, I should have stayed in the closet. Holy fuck, dude. That's gotta be a real mind fuck. Ooh, I couldn't imagine, bro. I could not imagine. Through the amount of self-hatred and repression that must involve. Jeez.
Really not kidding. Like, because when you're in the closet, there's only room for one. That's why they call it the closet. And you're just trapped in there with your own thoughts. And I was like, holy shit. I just revealed this, what I thought was this awful thing about myself after hiding it for so long. And next thing you know, America's under attack. It was not pretty. That set me back a bit.
Dave, we cannot rule out the possibility that you caused 9/11 with your homosexuality in the Times Square tube station.
Remember, that's what the evangelicals always used to say. It was the gay sex that was causing all the earthquakes and the volcano eruptions. So I guess it's possible.
Simply just not scientific. I've checked into it. There's no relationship between tectonic plates and sex with someone with the same genitals as you've got yourself. Now, we've touched upon 9/11, which was utilized in order to bring about the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was underwritten by those terror attacks in 9/11. Now, the Pentagon leaks are being utilized to bring about the Restrict Act. Will these leaks, cheerled by the mainstream media, no one questioning the content of the leaks themselves, only seeking to condemn the leaker, who I believe is called Buddy Boy Texera, that it will lead ultimately to more surveillance and more early 20s style Dave Rubin repression. Are you worried that the Pentagon leaks will lead to more surveillance, more restrictions, more censorship, less freedom?
Yes, my friend, you are completely right. It is obvious. Everyone should see it. This is the Patriot Act for the digital world, and it is actually almost irrelevant what was released on those Discord channels because they are using this, as you said, for the pretext to make sure that whatever little bit of our digital identity on this little black mirror that we're all holding, whatever remains ours and is not theirs yet, they're going to make sure that they get every piece of it, whether that is every message that you and I send privately to each other, whether that's every video that you share, whether it is whatever, your family pictures, etc. We may already have crossed the Rubicon where they already have access to every.
I'm pretty sure they do already have access to all that stuff. They're trying to probably make it more legitimate that they have access to it. But as far as having the access, I'm pretty sure the CIA and FBI have been on that one pretty well for a while now. I mean, the whole thing that, what was it, Snowden, when Snowden came out, like talking about how they've been surveilling the American people for years and to increasing levels, and have deals with like AT&T and stuff, gain access to your information without your knowledge or consent. It's all well established stuff. I had a mind blank just now. Oh well. But anyway, to answer your question, Bad News, I'm a dude, male. Male is my gender. I was born male, always male. I don't know what that word is. Pardon? Elaborate, please. Where did I put that thing? I have a thing I wanted to. All right, we'll come back to it.
Everything, and now this is just window dressing around it. They're just trying to dot the I's and cross the T's on this stuff. But yes, they're coming for every bit of digital existence. I don't know if you saw it, but Tucker interviewed Elon last night on Fox, and he was talking about, because he's really trying to fight some of this stuff, he was talking about how one of the things that he's doing with Twitter, he said it'll take about a month to roll out, he wants to do end-to-end encryption on the DMs, because the DMs, which obviously are the private messages that you can share with people who you follow and they follow you, The government and Twitter employees have been allowed to read them. It was very obvious to me for 10 years. I never wrote anything in a DM that I wouldn't have wanted to be seen. But, you know, a whole bunch of people thought, oh, it's a direct message. It's private. And it's like, no, 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 no. They're coming for everything. And the only thing that can stop this is decentralization. It's encrypted messaging, you know, one-on-one messaging with no middleman, and Bitcoin and that sort of thing.
One of the things that was fascinating, Gareth here pointed it out as a matter of fact, is that they implied that one of the things that led to the arrest of young Buddy Boy Texera was that he'd shot those papers from above, revealing a little bit of his kitchen countertop and the tiles on the floor. And those geniuses at the New York Times, who were inexplicably involved in investigating and catching him rather than reporting objectively on the story, along with their pals in the feds, were able to piece together the tiles and the countertop to locate where he lived. Isn't it more likely?
That's crazy that they were able to do that. I feel stupid. I feel like I should have pieced together that you were trying to say person there. This man says he has huge hands. See, now you've put an image in my mind. Now, like, I'm gonna think about every time you message Bad Tunes, I'm gonna think about like you with a tiny phone in your hand, and you got like these big hairy ape hands. And the image is gonna pop up for like, I don't know, the next like 48 hours or some shit. Just cause you said that. You now have put that in my brain.
That they are in fact already able to use the spying techniques such as you just outlined, you know, following your every transaction, your every message. Do you think that in reality, even the arrest of that lad was utilizing sort of spying technology? And do you think that, as even Snowden's revelations suggest, that they have a greater ability to surveil us than they're willing to admit to, and more than is legal?
Dude, okay, this is the third time in a row. This is the 3 of these streams in a row now. I have said something at some point in the stream, usually near the end, and then Russell says it within usually less than 2 minutes later. I just brought up about Snowden, talked about informed the public about the mass surveillance the CIA and FBI were doing, and then now he brings it up. And literally within a 2-minute window in terms of the video playing anyway. I feel like I'm psychically predicting Russell's narrative direction at this point on accident.
Yeah, dude, I mean, everybody watching the show is walking around with this in their pocket. You're walking around with something that has GPS attached to it. You're walking around with something that you're sending messages from. They're not just going to somebody else's phone magically, right? They're going through a network of systems. So someone is tracking all of this one way or another. There's probably no way around that. I get you can decentralize everything, as we talked about a second ago. There's no way to fully fix this thing. And there's no way to fix the simple fact is that when people have technology is like fire. Fire is good to heat your home and so that you can cook, but it can also burn you and burn your house down. We all have to figure out what our relationship with this thing is. I tend to think you have a pretty decent relationship with it, that you're not consumed by what's on your phone. You know, I try not to tweet on the weekends. I do my off-the-grid August with no information whatsoever. I've done it 6 years in a row. No phone, no TV, no electronic devices of any kind. But we all are going to have to reevaluate what our relationship is with this thing, because they handed us this phone. It had the freaking world on it. It was all for free. What we didn't realize was we were the product, right? Our clicks, our behaviors.
First of all, okay, it's not all for free. A lot of it's had upfront cost. And the phone itself is fucking expensive, okay? Especially a modern phone. You're spending like, what? At least $500 bare minimum on a fucking modern, up-to-date smartphone. Usually a little closer to $1,000 at this point. I think like $700-800, somewhere around the average right now. Crazily expensive for one of these little fuckers. Dude, Bad Tunes, listen, bro. Same, alright? Same. My hands ain't exactly hairless either, bro. I can relate. I don't think my hands were that big, though. feel like I'm maybe just a bit above average hand size. But they are quite hairy.
Why did we have 10 years of everyone on BuzzFeed
So
with
is the
those
rest of me.
stupid polls? Do you like this more than this? And what's your favorite hamburger? And what's sexier, an ass or boobs? And we're all clicking all of these
Oh, shoot. Sorry. I fucking dropped something.
things, and then they're aggregating all of it. What was BuzzFeed? It wasn't a profitable company. It was just to suck our freaking minds and then mine that data so it could basically be used against us, either in advertising or for whatever the hell the government's trying to do.
Dave Rubin, 8th of
Lots of
September
different reasons, I'm sure.
2001. Boobs. Dave Rubin, we've moved over to bums, baby. It's a big move from Rubin on that day. Do you think that Elon Musk is, through his investigations and attacks on government-funded media, making the mainstream more transparent, or does he risk highlighting government-funded media rather than privately funded media, which has, in my view, equally toxic, if not more, biases?
I think he's doing everything that anyone within this system can do. You know, when I had you in the studio a couple weeks ago in Miami and we were talking,
I think he's doing as much as could be reasonably expected of him for the most part, I guess, in terms of running Twitter right now. I mean, again, I have a big love and hate relationship with him in terms of how much I can approve, but I mean, yeah, again, a lot of poor decisions. I especially don't like his latest decision, but at the same time, he's also done some good things. In terms of being transparent, he's definitely seems like he's being the most transparent operator of this type of platform that we've had in the world so far. So, huge plus on that one. I think he's. Again, it hasn't been very long. With jury's definitely still out, but I think so far you got to give him that credit. That he seems like he's being relatively transparent, and that's probably one of the more important things.
a bit about DeSantis and why I was saying I like him, and then you were taking a slightly different approach. What I said is a system exists, and
I'm doing the opposite of you then on that one. That one, Bad Tunes. I got a brick for a phone. I got the still using an old ass phone too. I got a freaking Galaxy S7, and I've got it in an OtterBox, like the full size, like super durable OtterBoxes that they make it like triple in fucking size. I've got like the biggest phone setup of like anybody I know, really.
there's some people that do the best they can within that system to alter it in a positive direction. I think that's what DeSantis is doing. I think it's what Elon's doing. Look, I've met Elon twice now and spent a little bit of time with him and have a sense of what he's doing, but I don't know him like he's my brother. My sense with him is that he really is trying. He does not like the government overreach. To buy Twitter, think about buying Twitter. He bought it for $44 billion. It's a failing company. It loses millions and millions of dollars every month. He fired or had people leave 80% of the company. So he bought a faulty product, right? Twitter does not work as it's supposed to because of all the bad coding. He buys a faulty product, then fires 80% of the people that work there. Who does that? No one buys a company and does that. He did it not, I think he does want to make it profitable, but he did it because he wants to be in this fight. I genuinely believe that. Now, can he solve all the problems? Probably not, but doesn't it feel a little bit safer these days on the online in that there is somebody who happens to be the world's richest guy who's roughly on our side? And by the way, Russell, kind of like you, this is a guy, he's been a lefty his entire life. It's only until the last year, after seeing the COVID stuff, that he finally, for the first time ever, voted Republican. He moved to Texas. He voted for this woman, Mayra Flores, who is a congresswoman in a border town, because he saw what was happening, with all the migrants coming from Mexico. And then, of course, he moved to Texas because he left crappy California with high taxes and crime and all that to move to Texas where there's freedom and lower taxes and everything else. So I think he's going through his own political awakening, leaning more towards freedom. But I would say if we all exist within a system, he's one of the good guys within that system.
Dave, will you stay with us for a couple more questions exclusively on locals to drive people to a platform that you frankly invented?
All right.
I'm going to be asking Dave about moving to Florida and why Dave believes that the Sunshine
almost at the end of this
State
one.
is the only place to be,
Nice.
making claims that homelessness has been eliminated. I also want to know if it's true that Ron DeSantis is turning Disneyland into an open prison and sewer. So if you're watching us on Rumble now, you can click on the link, become a member of our locals community. All of it lines Dave Rubin's pockets. And
DeSantis was literally talking about, I think it was a joke, but he literally was talking about, he has some beef, I don't understand what it is, but he has some beef with Disneyland, so he's like, I want to put a freaking, or he said, basically say it was exploring his options, and an option was to put a new prison right next to Disneyland. Freaking wild. I'll have to fucking find that clip, later.
You can join us there for a little bit of a chat. And of course, you can watch Dave, if you don't already watch Dave Rubin on the Rubin Report every weekday. It's on.
Whoa. Did you say you're 7'8"? Are we talking feet here? Is this feet inches? Are you for real, my guy? I have so many questions. I have so many questions for you if you are 7'8", bro.
On at 11 a.m. ET, 8 a.m. PT. Tomorrow we've got comedian and political commentator Kat Timpf, who I met when I was on Fox News, being like an exchange trip student from another world. See you on Locals in a second with more from Dave Rubin, talking more about his private, personal business and reasons to move to Florida. Join us tomorrow on Rumble, not for more of the same, but for more of the different. Until then, stay free. See you on Locals in a second.
Not more of the same, but more different. I love that line too. It's a great catchphrase that he's come up with on that one. I'd co-opt it if I could. Not gonna lie. That was a good segment though. Dude, Elon Musk buying Twitter is another one of those things I'm so conflicted on, man. Because it's like, one, like it's like a faceless corporate committee, you know, because it's like a group of people that owns corporations most of the time. You know, you have board of investors basically. So like this faceless committee of people making these, you know, sterilized types of decisions to best monetize, and you know, there's no idea of personality and morality in their governance of the platform. Having them being overthrown by a very upfront and you know, personal singular individual. Does, you know, it sounds good. It does sound good. But him also being the richest man in the world and not having exactly the best track record with how he's treated his employees, or you know, how he's obtained some of the resources he's needed for building some of the stuff he's built, you know, aka getting the resources for his batteries from mines that are known to use slaves. You know, he doesn't have the biggest philanthropic reputation either. You know, these kind of things make me really go, maybe not so much a win for the people. But like I said, jury's really still out on this one. We shall see. Like I said, do very much enjoy that he's being as transparent as he is about his agenda and about which direction he's trying to take Twitter and which moves he's making. And I do agree with some of the more important moves that he's made. Dude, 6'8" is still freaking tall as hell, bro. Dude, how often do you have to duck, like, inside a building? Like, not just to get through the doorway, but like your head like is brushing fans and shit. Because I feel like, you know, most buildings, you know, ceiling's not gonna be that low, but like, I've been in a decent number of them there. It's pretty freaking low. I could definitely see you having trouble like hitting your head on lights and shit. How often does that occur, bro? Is it like 10% of the time, 50% of the time? Like, how often? Yo, is that exactly how? I think that is exactly how tall Shaq is, right? He's like 7'8" exactly, right? Let's look it up. Shaq height. Oh no, okay. He's not quite that tall. I think there is a guy that's that tall though. Shaq's 7'1". Who's the tallest man in the world? Let's find out. Robert Wadlow is... No way. That's his wingspan. That's not his height. What's his height? 8 feet 11 inches. Holy fucking Christ. That's crazy. How are you even human at that point? 8 feet 11 inches. Absolute madness. So you could literally stack two midgets, like two people that are just barely midgets on top of each other, and they would still be shorter than him. Because I think the cutoff for midget is like 4'2". That would be 8'4". And they'd still be shorter than him. That's crazy. Dude, yeah, I bet that's gotta be so annoying, man. It's like the world's just not built for you. Oh, dude, I'm glad I don't have that problem. I might not be the tallest man in the world, but at least I don't have tall people problems. I don't really have short people problems either. If you look up the average height of a man, I'm actually exactly that height. I'm perfectly average. Alright, let me hide my window real quick while I find the next video I wanted to go over. Because I got a couple more for us today. I really should key these things up, do a better job of keying these things up beforehand. And maybe one day I'll be put together enough to do that. But today is not that day. Here, let me double check myself. Oh, I guess if you go by global average height, I'm taller than that. I think it's if you go by America. God damn it, get out of my way. In America. Yeah, okay. Alright, if you really want to know how tall I am, you'll have to Google the average height of an American man. And then you'll know. Because I'm exactly that tall. I'll make you work for it.
No class, no...
Dude, I bet you don't like buses, bro. I bet you don't like most cars in general. Like, at 6'8", most cars suck, I bet. Maybe like some big trucks give you the proper headspace, but I bet that's about it. All right. So this video is entitled "The Power of Trust." The power of me. No, but for real though, this looks like a really good video. I can't wait to get into this one. I just got to fix my scaling. There we go. Get this out the way. All right. Let's see what's up with it.
Know why she's gone? Because I didn't need her.
I don't want to suspect him. There's no way.
You've got to start being more suspicious of everyone, you dummy.
5'2". Jesus fuck no. Oh, average height of a man in America. Average height of a man globally is 5'6". So I'm taller than that, because the average height of a man in America is taller than the average height of the man globally. I think that's mostly due to Asians generally being pretty short.
The Promised Neverland does something distinct from most dystopian social secret-based stories. Normally the controls we see are immediately obvious and harsh, from psychopaths as flashy and visceral dominators to From the New World's chilling memory manipulation. While such things are in place for The Promised Neverland, the giant wall most notably, they aren't immediately obvious. Rather, what we see first, the supposed extent of these children's boundaries, is this first, shorter fence. It's hardly even worth mentioning. It's clearly an indicator and not meant to actually keep anyone before it. When you consider the situation, at first it seems odd, knowing that these kids are being kept here as cattle to let them feel escape so easily. But that's exactly why it plays to our core idea here today: trust. Remember in Death Note when Light leaves the key in the drawer, he hides the Death Note under a secret panel and diary? It's the same concept here. You see the key, see that sign, and go,
okay, that is the biggest draw that I know of to being tall, is the fact that chicks love that shit. You know how many chicks say you gotta be at least 6 foot to ride this ride, so to speak? Quite a few. Quite a few chicks. Does this video have spoilers? Yes, it does. Absolutely does. Probably not really for Death Note, but it's gonna touch quite heavily on Promised Neverland. So if you're interested in seeing that and have not seen it, this does have spoilers. I don't think it actually spoils the main ending, or the main, not ending, because it's actually still an ongoing show. The ending of season 1 doesn't actually spoil the main element of the ending of season 1, but it does have some middle of the season spoilers for sure. I haven't gone through this in detail yet. I've just kind of skimmed through it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some middle season spoilers given the context and what they are going to address in the video. So if you want to step out to avoid the spoilers, I perfectly understand. But this is my planned video for the day, so I will dive into this motherfucker. Well, that's good. Okay, here we go.
okay, there's nothing really important past there, because if so, they would have worked harder to hide it. Before these children are ever even able to wander this far, they've had a lot of time with Isabella to feel her warmth and care, to see her actions and listen to her words. to develop trust. She tells them that the fence is as far as they're allowed to go. They get there, and what they see is something so easy to overcome, hardly an obstacle at all, so there must really not be anything worthwhile past it, right? If they were being kept in, or something was truly being kept out, there would be an actual fence here, not this dingy marker. This is just for their best interest to stay close to Mom, just a marker for that. So there's no reason to explore it out of curiosity. Their trust in their mother outweighs the curiosity of the human race. Considering that the defining trait of our species is to ask why, this is no simple feat, and it shows the power trust has on us. This isn't the only example of it, by the way. The anime opens on our main trio standing at the gate, pondering what exactly lies after it.
Okay, so I gotta address this. This is not really super relevant, but this guy, I've seen one of his videos before. Actually, at some point in the future, I'm gonna do an actual long form reaction video. Not streamed, but made off stream, and then posted to my YouTube. Because it's a really deep philosophical one. I want to tackle some of the points he makes in, again, in a long form manner. But yeah, so I've seen him before. He has made a clear aesthetic shift since the last time I've seen him. The painted nails and the choker is a surprising addition. I was gonna say, threw me off a little bit. Dude, you would think there would be a spoiler warning, but they don't always have them. Let's look down a little bit. I mean, he makes it clear that he's going to go into depth in his inscription about the Promised Neverland, which I guess implies a spoiler warning, but he doesn't ever actually say, hey, spoiler warning, we're going to fucking go over some stuff that, well, it's spoilers. So yeah, we don't get an explicit one, but we get an implicit one. Bye. Have a good one, Bad Tunes. Catch you next time.
But they never act on this feeling until Ray sneakily manipulates them into doing so with Connie's rabbit. And this was just out of care for a sibling, not out of human curiosity. If they really wanted to know what was out there, they could have followed Isabel guiding a child out to the gate any of the times it happened. We know confirmed that at least 2 kids left before.
You ain't have to do him like that, bro. You didn't have to do him like that. He says soy boy vibes for real. Oh my god, okay. Listen. He might be more of an effeminate dude, but that's okay. He can be that. That's okay. As long as he's not pushing any BS agendas behind it, he's just being him, and power to him.
For them. They could have jumped over the small fence, but they didn't, because why doubt what Mom says? She can leave her main door unlocked because they won't go sniffing around the secret bookcase or the second door. She can disappear in there at the same exact time every day and not have an issue because they don't want to make trouble. All of this shows just how much trust they have in her, and it's built on her trusting them. Or at least trusting her own manipulation over them.
That's what's
By
really
leaving
happening.
these little pockets where they could break the
that way.
rules, she makes sure that they never actually will break the rules. It's not like they fear consequences. We see that she's actually rather lenient in the past when they break the rules. It's breaking trust, genuinely disappointing someone they love, which motivates them to be good. A feeling much stronger than fear, one that induces positive actions rather than just forbidding negative ones and almost providing them more of an allure. But it also relies on the opposite feeling of doubt, more specifically creating a world which isn't conducive to doubt. The best way to do this is to create as perfect a world as possible, and this is both great storytelling design and great design within the series world itself to have these little picturesque pocket worlds.
It's also a testament to a truly skilled manipulator to be able to never mess up in any way that indicates any reason to have doubt. That's why the only characters in this show that actually express any serious doubts are the three geniuses, basically, the ones that are presented to be the most intelligent out of all the children.
For the story, it allows the narrative to be amazingly focused and tight, and within the story, it makes perfection rather achievable. The goods they need are transported in from somewhere else, allowing their little patches to remain unblemished by the needs of the modern human race. They keep the duties which build social cohesion, like cooking and laundry, things they need to work together to do and which can be reasonably enjoyed with other people. They intimately know everyone around them because there's so few of them, and so there are no widespread social issues which plague them. No money, no class, no large-scale conflict. This is all possible because they're a secretly funded, isolated space. These kinds of issues, like where to get food in an industrial society, are resolved in secret, leading to farms that are carefully cultivated little cells with only the best experiences the world has to offer. A lot of effort went into creating picture-perfect slices of life. This doesn't just provide reason for the inhabitants not to doubt, as who would willingly question paradise, but also creates the conditions for doubt to be utterly destructive. This is best seen when Dawn is let into the truth, and his reaction is to laugh it off. They inform him of one of the darkest possible truths, the kind of joke Emma would never tell, and it comes off as comedy because this shatters everything he's known of the world. The options are either that this is some kind of offhanded prank, or that his entire life is both turned upside down and about to end. It's not just that the future is now bleak or that the past was a lie.
Yeah, it's that both are true. The future isn't just bleak. The future is a guaranteed and imminent death, and all of the past is a lie. Which is, I mean, both are horrible things to have to fucking tackle, and have to deal with both at the same time is, I mean, pretty much an impossibility, impossible mental strain for somebody to come to suddenly, much less a child.
But that every emotion he's ever felt, every ounce of warmth, was a lie. At first, all this former kindness is evidenced against what the main trio claim. How could someone so great perform such evil actions? Who holds someone with such care before sending them to die? Isabella is a great mother. It doesn't make sense. But the kindness they knew, the lives they led, every hug, every meal, all of it is recontextualized by this truth and turned into something incomprehensibly vile. And feelings aren't actual evidence. Kindness isn't proof of anything. It exists for a reason like any feeling. It has intent or desire behind it. The main trio see this exact principle in action, with the double meaning behind many aspects of their lives that they figure out in statements like these.
Our regulated lives? The white clothes that show when we're dirty? The delicious food? All of it is to keep up our quality of life as merchandise.
The tests are now seen as a measure of meal quality, the fence as the distraction it is, and so on. What makes this so hard is, up until harvesting, everything is as it seems, just not for the reasons they were told. The trust they feel has reason, but that reason is a lie. Isabella is a representation of false trust. On the side of the farms as well, there's Krona. Her case is the most simple since it only spans half the series' runtime, but it helps establish an important principle. And that's the importance of even having trust in the first place. Krona kind of screws herself by playing every side at once, and by making it rather obvious as well. She's impossible to trust. When she strikes a deal with the kids, they turn around and immediately know she's gonna double-cross them because she literally just did the same thing with Isabella. Her intent is worn on her sleeve, it's simply self-gain. With Isabella, as we covered more in her dedicated video, there is some loyalty to the lie. It's what she develops everything we just covered based on. There is actual backing to her. Even if it's brittle, she has a motivation founded by others, which guides her trust. Same for the kids, they all have at least each other, and they each embody forms of trust that we'll get to as well. In contrast, Krona is, well, alone. She has no one to turn to, and that makes her vulnerable. Both Isabella and the children can come after her at once from both sides, because what are the consequences? Who else's wrath are they invoking if they do so? Even the other mothers don't trust her, because they trust Isabella more. She's the weakest link, the first point to be attacked. She loses before anyone else, because that's what happens without trust. She isn't a form of it exemplified, but rather the complete lack of it. What's one step up from trusting no one? Well, trusting yourself, and this is Ray, the overdramatic, moody little of the group. He's absolutely some kid at the peak of his emo phase, becoming the villain and playing it up, and you know what? I'm here for that energy. Ray is my favorite because he plays the part of a tragic hero on a quest to save the world from a great lie from the very start. Lacking infantile amnesia, he retains memories from even before his birth, and as such knows all about this world's secrets. For years, acting as Isabella, his genuine mother's spy, he collects rewards to build a device to disable the trackers located in their ears. He gathers information they can use, he sets up the situation for Emma and Norman to uncover the truth, and plans his own demise to help them escape. He's isolated with his knowledge for years, and it drives him crazy with his planning, culminating in him deciding to burn himself alive as a distraction. The perfect meal raised for the one ruined in an instant, this brutal sign of his humanity by disrespecting that very fact. He only trusts himself and his own plan. We can see hints of this all along, like how he forces a commitment from Norman about lying to Emma on saving every child. He doesn't consider that they may have a way to do so, and as we later see they do, he simply trusts his idea that it's impossible. He's known the longest, thought on this truth the longest, he's the one who knows best. Or so he thinks. Ray is like a miniature case study on diversity and productivity. Everyone knows a diverse team, especially diverse leadership, is better, and depending on how high up, it gets even better from there. And the reason for this is kind of like conflict, or at least a light form of it, the meshing of different perspectives, which leads to disagreements. Different ideas come from people who've lived different lives, desire different things, and just at the end of the day, think differently.
It allows for multiple valid allows for multiple valid ideas to be to compete amongst each other, and ideally for that most effective idea to then win out. That's what you get when you have diversity. Now, oftentimes the better debater actually wins rather than the person with the best idea, and that muddies the waters a bit. But when people are acting in good faith, and they have mutual trust between them, then it sets the stage for different ideas coming from different perspectives to be played against each other, and then for the best one of those to win, creating the best possible decision-making process. This is the advantage of diversity.
But the actual final plan that's implemented by Emma and everyone else uses, well, nothing from Ray. They don't even need his device for disabling the trackers, instead slicing off their own ears to adapt his fire into their plan. That blaze is his entire contribution to those 2 months of planning after Norman is shipped out. While they all work together, he sticks to his secret internal desire of penance for spying on his fellow kids over those 6 years. Although he is seeking a good result from his sacrifice, it's still a selfish one. We have this almost idealized idea of sacrifice, with countless villains or anti-heroes being redeemed by sudden life-ending decisions for the greater good. But what's really better? one moment of helping others or a lifetime full of it?
Very valid point. The better redemption is the ongoing redemption rather than the grandiose final act, for sure. But I think the idealization of sacrifice isn't just some, wanton romanticization of redemption. It's rooted in the desire for order and justice to prevail ultimately. This is something that many people wouldn't articulate as a defining aspect of their nature, but it really is for pretty much all of humanity. And we want this even at the cost of our own benefit. Now, sometimes they simultaneously have very selfish desires, and those desires went out against the desire for justice and order. But the desire for justice and order exists regardless, and it cannot be sated or quelled by anything other than a strong adherence to such concepts. And that, I think, is the underlying principles involved in this self-sacrificing ideology.
By living with a newfound dedication to those they harmed, the tragic hero can perform much more good than with a simple sacrifice. The real penance is not an escape from life, it is living it in all its pain, dedicating that pain to solving the issues that you once caused. I think we see this realization in Ray. Speaking with his memory of Norman, he says on escaping with everyone,
I kind of figured they'd all just hold us back.
As he's amazed at how much Emma and the others trained right in front of his eyes, and he didn't even notice it, as they used every waking moment on massed preparation while he simply moped around. It wasn't that they were actually incapable of helping it or escaping without his help, it's just that he didn't trust them enough to notice it. And because he didn't trust them, they couldn't trust him to be in on it, to be part of this new plan. His arc ends in the most fitting way with all this in mind. One of the younger children, Jemima, is scared to make the zipline trip, holding up the entire plan and the last two children after her. Norman steps over and agrees to tie her onto him for his turn, while at the same time preventing the fear of the other two remaining boys by playing to their ego. This is the first time that he actually genuinely helps others just for them, not acts of desire for personal interest or helping his closest friends to survive. It's a new kind side to Ray. The kind of thing you'd expect from someone who's realized how to fix their mistakes. Ray clearly shows us that simply trusting yourself alone will never be enough. It's good, it's crucial even, but the world is too big for just one human. Norman and Emma then provide insight as to more ideal forms of trust, its downfalls and benefits. We'll start with Norman because he's quite opposed to Ray in his approach. Where our budding emo teen wears his selected emotions in full for everyone to see, something understandable when you trust yourself and thus see this as important and valid, our contrastingly bright palette Norman hides all of his emotions for the sake of something greater. We so often see that he feels these hits of intensity just as much as Emma or Ray, but that he chokes them down instead to focus on the others and move forward. None more so obvious than right here as he's visibly shaken but moves to assist Emma before even sparing a moment for himself. Norman is the calculator of the group. They all have brains, but Emma and Ray tend to have their logic overcome by emotions, both positive and negative ones respectively. Norman doesn't face this issue, or at least doesn't allow himself to face it. And this provides them a lot of benefit. Having someone so consistently cool-headed is integral to their eventual escape. Emma, while well-meaning and eventually caving on this request, holds them back by seeking to take everyone. And Ray nearly assures their death with a reckless plan, overcome by his emotions and failing in logic. Norman never makes such a rash or instant decision, save for so easily succumbing to Emma's request, but then going back on that in private anyway. My favorite markers of this are both when his ship date is moved up And then when he returns after the failed escape attempt they tried to resolve this with. Ray and Emma hurry together a plan that involves breaking Ray's arm and don't even give it a second thought on the prior one. When that fails, they throw any and every possible solution for escape at Norman, who immediately shoots them all down with their obvious flaws and then the danger they'd bring to everyone else. I think what we see here is an odd form of trust. It's baited and careful, yielding to the whims of human emotion, yes, but only when those emotions can be worked around with cold logic, with numbers, facts, even his own life being worked around. At the end of the day, they're playing a game of numbers. Each life is valuable and must be respected, something we definitely see from Norman. But this means that 37 will always be more than 1. By Norman's own logic, the only reasonable thing to do is to sacrifice himself. So if we had some sort of theoretical scale of trust with Ray over here, Norman would sit a little more past him. He clearly doesn't only trust himself, leaving his plan in the hands of others, but he only does so with some degree of certainty, only after surveying the area and finding exactly where and how they could escape, essentially making the plan, or at least most of it, for them. I guess in that way,
I like what he's doing here, setting it up to be, Ray is like the minimum, not 0, but 1 on the scale of trust, and then Norman at 5, and then Emma's going to be 10. I think it actually works out really well. I don't want to get too far ahead of where he's at with this, but I think I see where he's going with it, and I think I agree.
Probability itself is like a form of trust, believing in the odds and always taking the surest option. It's effective. Without Norman's logic, there would have been no escape. But it leaves something to be desired, doesn't it? It still ends with the possibility of sacrifice, just as our more moody other main characters did. But of course, there's Emma. Normally, I try to tame myself a bit, setting aside my personal enjoyment of a concept for more thematic analysis, but this last section is probably going to be quite unabashedly fangirly of how much I love this final plan. Because it's very much a meta-narrative on the tragic hero idea that Ray portrays, reinforcing how selfish it can be, and that's kind of the mindset I have at times, and I love things that tear down my own mindset and make me feel kind of weak. Now, I'll get back on track. As Emma explains, she was merely pretending to be the defeated hero, secretly giving orders to the rest of the children without moving a muscle herself. Since only the main 3, along with Dawn and Gilda, were cast in suspicion, Isabella wasn't watching the rest of the children. After all, why would she? They're not the heroes of this story. We're not focused on them for a reason. The actions of the other children preparing are in full visibility, yet she pays them no mind at all. In the same way, we don't pay mind to their model rockets or their zip lines. And to prove this point, can you tell me what their names are, these minor characters? I certainly can't. Even as they become integral to the story, they remain background characters. This is in part.
It is very good use of side characters. Very much did enjoy this aspect of Promised Neverland. Very much so. I have to step away for a moment though, guys. I will be right back. I apologize. Okay. Damn, bro. Bet. Alright, let's do this.
For the surprise twist, but it's also a meta-narrative on the very idea of heroes intertwined with the idea of trust. They are the people we trust with the future. That's a hero. The world is large and terrifying, overwhelming for many of us to face, even just being tasked with daily life. So we place faith in certain individuals and support them in that task, rather than performing it directly. This is almost just like the basis of government and elections and things like that as well. When they are competent, strong, dependable, essentially perfect people, this can lead to success. But when they're not, when they're simply people just as flawed as us, only with more attention, the result is often disaster. It's a burnt house and child without escape anymore possible. Heroes don't really exist as we think of them, the simplified stories of a few individuals. Even real-life figures we learn of are nothing without the ones backing them, from politicians to generals to leaders of social movements. There's a lot happening in the background we don't see, and so this is what the Promised Neverland shows us, that we must not trust in individuals, but that we as individuals must trust in each other. Emma is not the hero, she merely helps to assemble a collective hero, the wishes and efforts of everyone involved. Isabella sees escape as a genuine impossibility, even to the point of allowing these troublemakers to stay, knowing they're trying to escape, because when she was younger, she was working to escape alone. She was having to be a lone hero, a genuine impossibility in their world. You can never escape a place like this alone. Isabella is the little drip of proof that this, and many other things we think of as heroic, simply aren't solo actions. They require a lot more trust. And this collective idea in itself is still hard work. It doesn't.
You need trust in this world. Only through trust can you find truth. It all takes a leap of faith, which is something is a major point that I am going to make in my upcoming response video to a video that this man here has made on a philosophical outlook that is, I think, most commonly referred to as... I'm mind blanking right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't think of the name of it at the moment. But I am working on a response video to a philosophical video that he did. Called something. He titled the video something along the lines of desiring not to exist or something like that. It's going to be good though. Look out for it.
Simply happen overnight. Something we witnessed happening quietly in the series is how much trust Emma garners between her and every single other child. She never lies to achieve her wishes as even Norman did. She's simply honest about them and allows others to react. There was never a moment of betrayal where she broke her word, as almost everyone else has. She goes as far as providing proof for her claims, baiting Krona into giving the truth to children listening beyond the door, instead of relying on this trust she built in the first place, basically proving it before she relies on it. She's not giving her life for them or dying for them, but she's giving her all for them because she loves them.
Which is a huge
It's a mixture of both her will to help.
Two things get conflated very often. You shouldn't... The common phrase for it is, you shouldn't die for somebody, you should live for them. And she embodies what that actually means. She perfectly embodies what that actually means.
Help and her personal desires in life. By doing this so unabashedly, she can comfortably gain the same thing from others. Knowing how much she cares, believing her, how hard she's working, everyone else is then able to provide their all in return, wanting both to stay alive and support this cause she leads for everyone's sake. Through this mutual love, it becomes even more personal than it already seems. It bolstered individual desire, the drive to stay alive, to heroism. Think about it like this. Who would you actually trust more? Someone who says that they'll die for you in any situation, or someone who says they'll do anything to survive with you instead. At the very least, this latter is agreeing to support you for much longer than the former. This is complete trust, and it means there's no issue in her leaving the plan in the hands of others so she could act as a distraction, because there's a backing of about 10 years of trust that such a decision is built upon. If they fail her now, then there really never was a chance to begin with. They'd end up with Isabella's mindset that escape really was impossible, except it wouldn't really be a mindset, it would just be the truth at that point. I've already started going off script, and to be honest, I wrote this one a while ago. I had a lot of different issues pop up that prevented me from working on anything YouTube for about a week and a half now, which for me, considering I do this every single day, was a long drought. So I had to come back to this script late. I actually wrote the Norman section, or the second half of that last, so it's probably a weaker section of the video, and this one might have fallen behind a little bit overall, but I hope there's still something good in here, and hopefully it'll still do well and there's something in here, because
don't beat yourself up, dude. I think it was pretty decently executed. Pretty good. I like the video. Let me give it a like.
This anime is really good. I really enjoyed talking about it. We'll have it included in some different multiple series discussions, which I want to get back to at some point really soon, because those are interesting, but I'm looking for topics that really pull me in and that I really want to research, so they're taking a little bit longer, but I think it's going to be worth it. There's going to be some really good ones, hopefully coming up here soon once everything settles back down, because, life is crazy, or as Life is Strange so famously said, life is weird. Wow, I'm really rambling. I could do this all day, so instead, I'll leave you with important links in the pinned comment, Twitter, I guess, as well as Discord, where eventually I'll start being more active once things settle down. I feel awful about not being able to do much more than greeting right now, but I love interacting with everyone there. And Patreon, of course, where these lovely people above me support me through all these awful times and help me keep providing all of this to you. But I appreciate everyone, as always. A big thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon.
Good video. Like that one. Hell yeah. And I think with that, we might just call it a stream today. I do have a bunch of other stuff to do. I'm trying to work myself up to longer streams. I keep meaning to do more. I keep having some plans of like doing some gaming after this. But I kind of get worn down for one, and then I'll reevaluate. I tend to reevaluate my day plans as the day goes on, and then end up realizing that I put too much in the day and I need to make more time for more important things. Long story short, I got to work on my planning, and I got to build up my I guess my streaming tolerance. So eventually we'll get there. This is one of our longer ones in a little while, so I feel like that's progress, and we'll keep pushing. So until next time, guys, I hope you have a beautiful day, beautiful evening, beautiful morning. I hope life is the journey you need it to be, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.